indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the meeting to order with anyone present. First off on the agenda, 9:30, Sarah Hoffert, Community Insurance of Iowa. Good morning, Sarah and Tom.
I'm just here.
Oh, okay.
Rate increases like that, you're probably one. With rate increases like this, you're probably well.
Can't say we're glad to see you, but.
Lucky we can get insurance. That'll be the next problem.
Here's a couple easy things, a couple endorsements. We had added a ranger. I can email these to if you prefer, otherwise. Okay, and then this was taking off that tower that was insured on in the farm. I did have a question on it though, because they took the whole location off. And there is gonna be a little bit of a credit back, 1,723. We're waiting for ICAP because they do part of it and we do part of it. So once they figure out what they issue, then I'll mail a check over. At that location, there was a tower and a generator, and both those got taken off. It was included all together. It was like 1.4 million. The generator.
Generators coming up here to this building.
Oh, no. The Sears on the one out by John. This tower was like, they were like 750, weren't they? The generator, it should be a package. The 1.4 should be a package. That was whole one deal.
She just wants to make sure that 911 is covering the generator as well as the tower.
Oh, okay.
So, or the tower, 911, the county, the generator, so.
Right, they're insured as a.
It is as a whole right now.
The towers are like 750. So that would be then there's a building there and then.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it's not like a separate.
I'll check on that.
Okay.
Double check to make sure.
I'll make sure, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so here's those endorsements. And I did print off the whole renewal supplement. I usually email that out to Ben and then all the department heads. So as you guys know, there's gonna be they said the budget for about a 30% increase. So that's the big part of it. They're also adding cosmetic exclusions onto buildings. So if you have hail damage to a building that doesn't change the function of the siding or like metal roofs, metal siding, there's not any coverage. So, and that's a pretty standard endorsement actually by a lot of our commercial carriers. Some personal lines carriers are also doing it on homeowners or farm coverages. So that's kind of a trend that's happening.
Like if you had a brick building or whatever,
well, then there's
gonna be no.
It basically what they're talking about are metal buildings, metal roofs. That's basically where you would have a cosmetic damage, where like a hailstorm would come through, put a dent in the roof or on the roof. It does not affect the functionality of the building.
No.
So, yeah, and a lot of the farm policies are starting to do that now.
What's the rider or something like that?
It's not a rider.
Is
there one?
It's an exclusion.
It's just an exclusion.
No.
No.
Does that is windows? That would fall under insurance because that is a function.
Right. Yeah, it'd be like siding or roofs.
But if it damaged the window, but the window is still able to be shut with panes intact, that would not be covered.
Well, you'd still have your deductible too. So you would have to.
If it's gonna crack a window, that affects the functionality.
Yeah.
Basically, what it pertains to is metal roofs and metal siding. That's pretty much.
Your shingle roof's still gonna be.
Right. And even with a metal roof, you know, if you have a large hailstorm that goes through large hailstorms, if it dents the roof, fractures or cuts it, then it's gonna, that affects the functionality. Yep.
So our services are reduced, but our rates are going up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I'm comparing it to what happened with health insurance back in 2010. Premiums, deductibles all went up, coverages went down, and your options went down. So, so my next portion.
And
of
it's
that-
not just one
No, it's.
carrier, it's all carriers.
And when I ask that question, it's not pointed at you two.
Right. No, I see
It's a
that.
frustration.
It is. It's very much a frustration thing.
You should be in our business.
Yeah.
We get to deliver this bad news to all.
You have any sales calls, you make apologetic calls.
As we always said, don't shoot the messenger.
Ready to get consolence from the assessor.
Right.
So yeah, so I printed off schedules and I got, what you have right now as far as vehicles, buildings, and I've got it by department and location. I do email that out to everybody too. So the next portion of my bad news is they're adding a catastrophic deductible. And it's for wind and hail, windstorm and hail. So catastrophic, it would have to be deemed a catastrophe by the insurance service office. So what that means, like, for instance, if another derecho goes through and the amount of damage, total damage for this whole storm, whether it be Winneshiek County or the state as a whole or whatever, if that equals or is greater than $25 to $28 million total loss, then it's going to be a catastrophe. So that being said, if that happens, they're going to, there's two different ways they're gonna pay it. And it's gonna be the greater of 2% of the sum of the units of cover damaged or a minimum deductible depending on your total insured value. Confusing. So for instance, if you have a tornado that comes through, I'm gonna use the city of Warren because it's smaller, it's easier to, they have a little over $9 million of coverage total for buildings, vehicles, miscellaneous property contents. If they have if a tornado goes through, wipes the whole town out, they're gonna have 2% of the sum of all of their coverages, so it'd be about $180,000 deductible per unit of coverage. So it's per occurrence, per unit, so it'd be per building, vehicle.
180,000 for buildings.
Yes.
Per vehicle.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
So basically, there's no.
You're not gonna get paid.
There's
Right?
no catastrophic coverage.
Not unless they make any changes on that, so.
Yeah, so that's where, I've made my complaints. And when you guys have your, meetings and such, if you meet with any ICAP representatives or anything,
Bring that up.
bring it up. More voices, hopefully.
That was the legislative issue that ISAC is fighting for.
It,
So that would pretty much wipe.
it, wipe it
Yeah.
off.
Good, yeah, small community.
Small community.
Yeah, and it,
Well,
granted, like a hailstorm, that's
Small,
not gonna
big.
wipe out the whole town, but a tornado or derecho or something, it can happen. Is it likely?
Probably not.
Probably not, but
There's always that slight chance in the back of your mind, yeah, it could possibly happen. And the worst part about it is, like you said before, you're fortunate they're offering a renewal.
yeah,
Yeah, because even like ENC, they're not accepting any new business.
counties.
Yeah, any counties, they're not accepting any new business. So, yeah,
Well, Charles City in the late 60s.
right,
And
that would have been an example.
Marshall, no.
Marshalltown.
so you can't say it's not gonna happen.
So say,
It happened.
It's happened, so that's kind of the scary part of it. But
say
I
that
wish-
all happens and then tower gets ripped off of the courthouse.
Mhm.
It'd be deductible, be 2% of.
It all depends on how ISO, if ISO says it's a catastrophic loss. Otherwise, if it's not, if it's just a regular hailstorm that, goes through just city of Decorah and you've got some damage, you've got your 10,000 deductible. So it all depends on how big the storm is, where it is.
Marshalltown, the courthouse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was bad.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that brought this on, they're blaming the derecho of 4 years ago when that happened. I mean, that was a real mess. And the other problem is with all insurance companies, not just ICAP, all insurance companies, the reinsurance market has gone up terrible, absolutely horrible. And all,
80%, you told me the other day?
yeah, one of our county mutuals, their reinsurance is going up 80%. What they have to pay for reinsurance. Yeah, I mean, so it's not just commercial policies, it's farm
It's-
policies, home, and it's not.
If it's
It's
It's when it's going.
And a lot of companies are going to a percentage deductible too, like on homeowners and stuff.
Commercial properties.
Commercial
They
property.
know that storms are gonna get stronger and harder.
Well, and the cost.
They're still reporting billion-dollar profits, so there's
Well,
something
and
wrong.
Building materials, all of that kind of stuff has gone up so much too, and, you know, it's more concentrated when you have more buildings in an area. It's just very tough. So this is the one thing that I'm fighting with ICAP. I wish they would put like a cap on the deductible or do a per occurrence rather than say.
Especially when our total is five.
Right.
Yeah.
Millions, that
And it's-
2% gonna basically make it all.
Yeah.
wholly
If
worthless
they would
that
put a
way.
cap, you know, even if they had a cap of, you know, 100,000, depending upon how much coverage you have, you know, for like the county or for a smaller community, of course, it's less, but depending upon the amount of coverage you have, if they had a cap on it, total cap on it, it would be good. So,
Or a cap per site or
Right.
2% per site or
Right.
something. When we're
Yeah.
covering countywide, though,
Mhm.
2% makes it worthless, basically, if
Yeah.
that gets declared.
and it's real unlikely, but it can happen. I'm not gonna say that it would never, but it's unlikely that every one of your sites in the county is
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
have, gonna get hit, you know, because you are somewhat spread out. The basic site would be concentrated right
Yeah,
here.
we come through here.
Right. Yeah,
We just hit one shot. I mean, it's
Right.
still not good.
no, not good, absolutely not. But like I say, you know, you are spread out and countywide, so it's not all concentrated actually in one location. So, yeah. I've been doing this for 50 years now. And we went through a hard market in the 1980s, and this is by far the worst hard market that I've seen. So, yeah, it's not pretty. Like I say, I'm just here to serve as bodyguard for a pretty face or what.
Do you guys have a panic button in your office too?
Yeah.
Do what?
Panic button.
Don't have a panic button in the
We have
office.
bars full. Bulletproof glass and bars, yeah.
So,
Oh, so that's, you know, one of the things that you really want to take a look at then is what buildings you have covered. Because right now you've got a $10,000 deductible for property. So that being said, yeah, that was like a blanket coverage before the catastrophic. It was nice because it was a per occurrence deductible. So if you had a big windstorm come through and knock down a bunch of buildings, you had that 10,000 deductible for every building that was damaged. And then you could use whatever for cleanup or whatnot. Now without that, and if every place has, or every unit of coverage has its own separate deductible, you might want to take a look at some of these things and say, is it worth insuring that? What are we gonna do if they go down? I know you guys went through the list pretty.
Do we still have to list them on there just that we have them?
Well, so that's the other thing I want to clarify with ICAP because, you know, fire losses, yeah, you still have your blanket, like your catastrophic, but you know, what's the point of having a blanket
If it's no
if
good.
it's no good? So,
Yeah. so we
I
gotta
wish
list
they would,
all that.
well, and I wish they would clarify that a little better. It's still pretty, this is brand new
Yeah.
and it's confusing and there's not a whole lot of clarification and what are the advantages, disadvantages of
'Cause if we got,
getting a blanket.
yeah, if we have how many $100 million blanket policy, about 100, I don't know. be
But
100,
it's, but
it's
the
close.
what's the total there?
You know, you put 2% on that.
And how much does it?
you know,
Yeah, because if we're not gonna have that blanket. Yes, I know there's a lot of buildings in there that.
You could probably eliminate,
You know,
You
are
can
you-
clean up a lot of that stuff.
Like shelters and that kind of stuff.
The why,
Sure.
you're never gonna get, it's never gonna be, hey,
so yeah, like some of the parks, if you got a shelter and that shelter's, you got it insured for $8,000, why?
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, yeah. Basically, anything under a certain dollar amount.
I'm sorry, you have a $5,000.
5,000, okay.
So buildings, personal property, miscellaneous property, you've got 55.5 million. And
That's total.
That's total. And then for vehicles, you've got 5.8 million
That's a 5,000 deductible.
for property, yep.
So per vehicle also.
So per vehicle, it depends, we did some changing on that, like, your larger, your piece of equipment like dump trucks and stuff. Semis, those have 10,000 comp, 10,000 collision. And then your pickups, the
Sorry,
sheriff's cars. Sheriff's vehicles still have 200, 350, because they, or 350, 600, I'm sorry. Because there's been a lot of deer. And it hasn't really paid to increase those deductibles anyway. It hasn't saved enough to justify a higher deductible. And then there's 1,000, 2,000 for like sanitation, like the pickups for road department and stuff, so. You know, we can kind of play around with those again, see if it will make a difference, or, you know, maybe bump up the property deductible to 10,000 from 5,000, see if that makes a difference. And we still do the flat rate for commission, they don't do.
Because none of them other one, if anything's under $5,000,
Yeah,
you
you
see
put
put that on there.
Yeah.
We wouldn't even have to list it, because unless.
Right.
I mean, it just makes it clean.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Playground equipment, we got.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes it cleaner for the whole,
Mhm.
whole deal. Yeah.
And two, you know, once maybe they get, because like you said, you guys are at a meeting
In November.
in November, you and Don went to that meeting in Des Moines. And if this stuff is all new, if they get some different clarifications on it,
And if they get enough feedback.
yeah, get enough
hear
feedback
enough
from all the
noise.
communities and stuff, and
Yeah.
everybody is giving them.
If they don't, we're looking at a $1.2 million.
The other thing would be,
That's
the other
six,
thing would
that's
be,
60 million,
Is Mike still-
1.2 million at 4%. Well,
Mike Bergen,
So,
is he?
Mike Berg is
Still.
still on the ICAP.
ICAP board, yeah, you know, talk to him, he's on the board.
Mhm.
He's here in Winneshiek County.
Is Dave Hageman still on?
No,
It's been a
no,
few years since he's.
yeah, been a few years since they.
yeah.
Yeah,
We got-
but Mike
Well,
was,
he went back on temporarily for a little bit,
Mike or Dave?
Dave. He may possibly, because he was asked to fill in, I think. He was down at the Calmar City Council meeting a few months back.
Okay,
So I'm not sure.
I don't know, last year when I talked to him, I know he was not. But he possibly he did, I don't know, but I know Mike is the. Mike,
We'd have two facilities that cover the courthouse and the sheriff's.
yeah,
Down there, we have to, look at it, they didn't get anything on it, we had a catastrophic.
When do you need to change this?
So, I have to submit the renewal supplement usually around the 1st of April. Like I said, I can leave the stuff here and then I'll email out.
You'll email it to us, and we'll distribute it to the department heads, but if the board wants to look at this one, you
Yes.
can leave that one here for
Absolutely.
them to look at.
So 5,000.
For buildings, yeah.
The sweet spot is.
Yeah, and that's for any other losses, fire losses, or, you know, vandalism, or a small winter hailstorm, you know.
Yeah.
Nothing catastrophic, but like I said, catastrophic, when they're saying 25 to 28 million,
that's not a lot,
that's not a lot when you're. When you have a
No.
large area.
$25 million anymore today is.
No, yeah,
It's a small town maybe, but
Yeah, well, like I say, you know, it really will affect the small communities,
Mhm.
you know, so.
And there's just not many options for insurance for municipalities and counties and.
Well, and the other thing, you know, too, like, for instance, the city of Decorah is insured with ICAP too, so, I mean, yeah.
and they're united all in one.
Yeah, they're pretty much all.
Names spread out there in one town, which we're surrounding communities, which helps a little bit.
Yeah, Terry gets to go to all the small communities that she has insured, explain this to
Yeah.
them. She's got a lot of them. I was told to stay home because I said the last time, tell me, I said, I'm just here as a pretty face, and Mayor told me, well, if that's the case, you might as well stay home.
it's like Keith.
Yeah, the key.
Well, thanks for the bad news.
Okay.
So, yeah, catastrophic, when would you know on?
Well, for now, this is the way it is. It is what it is right now.
Do we just clean it up then, or? Wait
I
and see what
want-
happens?
So I want to clarify with them too, as far as the blanket portion goes.
Yeah.
Why have a blanket if you're gonna have to?
Yeah,
Because
we have it.
that's why you have a blanket coverage for catastrophic losses.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it makes. it
We only
easier.
got two buildings that need, two things that need to cover.
Yeah.
Is it worth?
Isn't worth
Right.
having.
Can you get back on the agenda when you find that answer?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because if we have to clean that up, then Mark and I can go over that again, like. we did
Clean
last
us up
time.
and get rid of anything, I mean,
Yeah, anything small,
small, you know, use.
so,
Like I said, and if you happen to see Mike or.
Yeah, I don't think it's like great. I dug through.
but
But
like I said, he's on the board.
I think the more people can bring it up and talk to them and the
Yeah,
more noise it can make. hopefully
They're hearing from the Iowa State Association of Counties. That's
Mhm.
Yeah, because let's say,
Came up
ICAP
last
is
week.
insured, but almost 80 counties in Iowa. So plus all the municipalities that they insure. So I'm sure that there's a lot of people hearing the same news. So hopefully a lot of voices will be heard.
And like you guys said, the smaller rural towns.
It's kind of like
Huge.
That's huge. It's-
Huge.
These small communities are, you know, and.
They're already hurting.
Yeah, this was a topic in Rich Weis, or I mean, in Fort's city council last week.
Okay,
Yeah, if you have questions, let me know, but I'll.
Probably.
Again, I'll get some more
Thank you.
clarification.
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good news.
here.
Hey, how's it going? Good. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
10,000 is cutting.
Next on the agenda, discuss request from the sheriff's deputies for collective bargaining salary changes.
Passed, or I had copies of that in your mail. So John Anderson sent out the email to me and then I forwarded it to you. So you basically have three options. You can say no and just not do anything, or you could accept it to what they're proposing, or you could ask for negotiations to come to something in the middle. If you're gonna do negotiations for something in the middle, then you can schedule with John a closed session at a different time, so you can do a strategy, what you might want to look at. That would happen in an open meeting, but
If we do it for one, do we do it for all three unions that we work with?
this is they're only requesting it for one.
Just a little background on this. I'm not gonna get into the numbers they're proposing. That's for another meeting at a more appropriate time. Just a little background on what's going on with the state, something to consider as the board considers this. Right now, recruiting and retention is a hot topic across the United States, certainly here in Iowa. We've so far been able to really be unicorns in the industry. We're probably one of the few, I couldn't back it up for sure, but I would guess maybe possibly one of the only agencies in the state of Iowa that has not put anybody through the academy in many, many years. This is a hot topic, meeting with the Iowa Sheriffs and Deputies Association, the Police Chiefs Association. In fact, they're putting together numbers on what it's costing counties because of this recruiting and retention issue. Not only training is obviously a huge one, academy costs are a huge one. And then the liability that goes with constantly having new officers, new deputies that are inexperienced, and usually, especially in the deputy setting, they're looking at really 2 years before you can really trust them to go out for the wide range of things that they have to be responsible for and take care of. So the number that the Sheriffs and Deputies Association was kind of looking at just a few weeks ago is the average training cost. So this is average for an uncertified recruit is about $65,000. I think that number, that's average for different agencies. I use the number just of $50,000 because I think our training costs probably, frankly, are a bit less than that. So just in the last 9 years since I've been sheriff, I've hired every single deputy except for my lieutenant chief deputy. And so that's 12 deputies. Figuring that at 65,000, or excuse me, at 50,000, going well below what the state average is, that's a $600,000 savings to the county that we would have otherwise put into it, not figuring the increased liability loss of experience, loss of, just, years of service, knowledge, everything else that brings with the new deputy. So recruitment and retaining is everything. So when the deputies, negotiated the contract in 2022, it was a good contract, and the way I understand it, all parties, when they got done negotiating that, they were towards the top of the pay scale. I don't know if they're very top, but they were doing well. Over the last second and subsequent year of that, they went from the top, near the top of the pay scale to dead last. And that's with any county that you compare to that's anywhere reasonable to a comparison, and including non-comparison counties, including both Alameda and Howard, are both paid well more than Winneshiek County, and by no standard are they a comparable county to Winneshiek County, other than strictly where they sit geographically. So it was kind of my understanding, the handshake agreement, that if that would happen, because nobody could predict the future, that we'd reopen it for wages only to relook at that. So I guess the pitch I'm making here today is right now we're in a unique situation that we're one of the only agencies where we're still thought of as the premier agency to work, and I'll back that up. Last time we tested, we got 10 certified experienced officers applying. Nobody else around us is doing that. Most agencies are having to test and retest and retest. They're offering $10,000 sign-on bonuses. They're offering to pay off contracts. They're offering all these incentives, and they still can't get a single certified, qualified, or not even certified. They can't even get a single applicant that's worth hiring. They have to keep retesting. We haven't offered any of that, and yet we're still able to get top of the echelon. I think we've been able to do that through multiple facets, the reputation of our office, the reputation of Winneshiek County, but reality is money talks. And we're not going to be able to continue to be anywhere near that market and basically be able to ride the gravy train, the financial gravy train we've been able to ride, if we're not even competitive in the market. And right now, like I said, that'll be for another time, but I think they have numbers that'll show they're not even competitive. And I think it's a matter of, we spend some money now to save it down the road. If we just, and I'm not looking at a big time frame. I'm just, like I said, if you just go back 8-9 years at the most conservative of numbers that I would challenge anybody to fact check against, it's easily a $600,000 savings in just that time frame. Not saying any of this is cheap by any means. I'm just saying it's the reality of the nature of the industry nationwide. This isn't a Winneshiek County issue. This is an everything issue. Fortunately, recruitment and retainment has not been a Winneshiek County issue yet, but I think that's about to slip through our fingers. And that's, I guess, why I'm calling for somewhat of an urgency to try to make some adjustments. Whether, and again, what somebody wants and what somebody can afford are oftentimes two separate things. I get that. I'm just asking that we take a look at it and look at the future of what this is going to cost if we don't act now. Seeing if I'm missing anything, I took some notes here. I think that kind of covers the main stuff, but like I said, I'm intentionally not getting into the nuts and bolts of the numbers, but looking at the overall situation that we find ourselves in right now. I'm not going to start naming agencies, but there are agencies very, very near to us that simply cannot find a qualified, experienced officer. And if you look at their blotters or their financials over the years that they've put into these officers, that probably don't even begin to cover the real cost. If you just look at training and training expenses that have gone into them, that doesn't even begin to factor in 2 years of really not being able to have an officer that's out there trained and equipped to handle the calls that come to them. So I think our citizens have seen a higher level of service because of what we've been able to bring here. It's built a lot of trust. I'd just like to keep a good thing going.
I don't know if you want to talk numbers today, but do we know what is Howard and Alameda?
I don't have those numbers in front of me, but it's not close. It's several dollars an hour more. But I don't want to say for sure because I don't have them in front of me. So
How many, how now McKee and compared to Winneshiek, how many deputies do we have as compared to how many they have?
we have a couple more. Their county population, I think Howard is about half the size of Winneshiek County. I think Allen McKee runs population at 14,000. I think Allen McKee has maybe 1 or 2 less deputies than us, and I think Howard's probably similar. I think we have 1 or I don't know, one, 2, maybe
It'd
3.
be interesting to know.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, it'd be,
If you have
It's
less
close.
deputies, you can pay more money.
Yeah.
Realistic.
You know, I talked with Tim Beckman a week or so ago, and he's down at least 1,
yeah, and
and he
they're,
can't, and he's not getting any responses.
yeah, they can't find them. They can't find them. It's recruiting and retention is everywhere. I mean, that's all that gets talked about when we go to these conferences, meetings. That's all that's getting talked about. It's being talked about legislatively right now, what can be done. It's a problem. In fact, DPS has got this huge push out there for troopers. I mean, they've got full-time people that sworn troopers. That's all they're doing is recruiting and retention. I saw a state patrol car parked in our parking lot the other day that the whole back window was basically a logo to come and apply with us. It's a huge issue.
Same with nursing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a problem everywhere. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't think those other counties are able to provide the full 24-hour, 7-day service that we do.
That's correct.
With
Yeah,
their staffing levels.
that's
They don't have
correct.
enough people.
Yep, they just don't have the people and they're running one at a time a lot of times because, you know, and I don't blame them, but it does reflect on the quality service they're getting because you're obviously got one hand tied behind your back and you're the only one working and certain situations just dictate more than that.
The other day, the sheriff was on his way out as the only one to deal with it. Cattle out on the road.
Yep. No, it's a problem everywhere. And as, like I said, we're a unicorn here. We've been riding a good thing and I'm basically saying, let's keep a good thing going.
So today your action is either to not take action, accept what they've given, or direct your negotiators, which have traditionally been the chair and vice chair, to meet with the board. Now, one thing I can say is that if you wanted in next year's budget, we need to know like in the next week. Now, it might be something you agree on and you just have to you're gonna add in something in a budget amendment because we're getting to the wire here on doing budget.
Is this potential in your budget already?
Not
Covered by your budget already?
Not all of it, no, but I think there's a potential that a portion of it could be. And I kind of anticipated that question because it's a logical question that we're talking numbers here. And obviously I'd have to look and see what the final budget looks like, but as submitted, I think there would be some room. It would obviously cut into kind of some of that contingency money, of course, which, you know, you've heard me belly aching about getting, you know, but yes, it's a fair question. And I think there would be room for at least a portion of it. All of it, no, not even close, but a portion of it, yes, I think there would be some room there.
What % of our deputies were trained with money from the city? And then come to your office? It's just a question the community's.
Well over half. It's a fair
So we're
question.
saving the county budget money, but the city still has to pay for that training. That it has to be paid by somebody.
And it's got nothing to do with us. I mean, what the city does.
Just looking at the full picture here.
And I think the other side is those officers probably would have went somewhere. Whether I think they're going somewhere. So we might as well retain the financial benefit of it.
It's just like ours. If ours are dissatisfied, there's another option that looks better than they're going.
Yeah, they're gonna go with the most attractive option. And
They're
so
gonna
far, we've been able to thankfully be that most attractive option. And
And Dan knows that wasn't an attack on our department.
Yeah,
It's just a logical question the community always has too, is where, I mean, somebody paid for it.
yeah, no, every single deputy we have came from somewhere and somebody paid for that. Yeah. But, you know, to Mark's point, I want to look out for our citizens. So, and I realize that's not what you were saying either, but I'm,
Right.
Okay.
Well, I would be in favor of, we're on the bargaining You and I,
I'm not,
Dan's not in favor.
those numbers are ludicrous. I'm still pissed off when I read that the other day.
And Dan, I'm gonna speak to that a little bit. Those numbers, what they did is just look at comparisons and put them.
Agreed.
Well, it's reality of what the others are making. I think it's the reality of the market. And I think that's what they're saying, here's what the market is, will you talk to us? Like I said, I think there's a difference between what the market says and what someone can afford.
Yeah, I do see that the clerical staff is considerably less than similar positions inside the courthouse. That is, I see that as a valid point. And you have basically 2 clerical in the sheriff's office.
And you don't have any opportunity to raise your levy anymore, so you're already spending that down, so.
Would you be able to take a look at your budget and tell us how much of this total you can cover with what you already budgeted?
You're talking about fiscal next year. Yeah, as that, excuse me, as that budget is submitted using those numbers, I think
I've included a 2.75% increase in the salary line.
yeah, so with that, I would say upwards of safely without getting into a danger zone, I would say upwards of at least 40,000. Yeah. Yeah, and obviously yes, that whittles into all the extra money that we've gone back and forth on, no doubt about it. But there's obviously, it's gotta come from somewhere, and I'm looking at what does it cost us the year after that, the year after that, the year after that. So,
Well, I'd like to see a closed door meeting or the 2 chair and vice chair sit down and go over the details of why and what for. And either later this week or first of next week, or maybe even later this week would be better before next week.
Like Shirley pointed out, she and Dan did this last time because they were chair and vice chair, so I guess you'd have to decide how you're going to put that up.
We decided that in early January already.
Or
But
just
Dan
meet in closed session with the whole board,
Or closed session with the whole board.
and everybody's on the same page.
Mhm.
We can talk it out.
I think that would be better.
What's the number of deputies that are on this here? How many deputies? Or we come up with money.
Well, let's have a,
I think I've said it.
actually, the 11.
That's without overtime. I'm just figuring 40 hours a week would be 100.
Like I said, the point of this is to give you and Dan to speak to you. I mean, it's to give you the reality of the numbers. That's the idea of bringing it to you, and then go from there of what can realistically be afforded. Yeah. I just don't want to end up in the same situation like the rest of the country's in.
I think the idea of a closed session, if we could do that with you to look at those numbers and
Sure.
have discussion.
Be happy to. And I did not bring, I hadn't even brought this along today. I hadn't planned on talking numbers. I was just moving the ball forward to a conversation. I hadn't even brought those numbers with me, so.
When would you want to do that closed session meeting? Do you want to do it at the end of today's meeting? Or do you want to? It's on today's agenda, so you can do it at today's meeting, just a little bit later.
Would you be available?
Yeah, I'm making sure that I can come up with the number. I think so. I just need to be able to come up with some of their numbers.
Let's just do it next week.
After the meeting,
That's meeting next week.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
that would be great.
That way I can take a deep breath.
That'd be good.
Is there a website that would list like every county population, number of deputies, stuff like
I'm
that?
sure there is. I'm sure that'd probably be an ISAC or something. I mean, yeah.
Would be,
Yes,
it'd just be interesting to
Yeah, I
know,
would
because
guess
the
I-
public will
yeah.
ask, like, well, are we over?
They've got a lot of it. I mean, what they're, like I said, they put a lot of that together. So that's what I was hesitating on. He said, could you do it? Could I have those numbers? Because obviously you're gonna need those. And
They do have them put together.
Yeah, yeah.
The deputies do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yep, thanks. Appreciate it.
Next on the agenda, we have a miscellaneous item, an appointment to the Historic Preservation Commission.
So we had a resignation from Historic Preservation Commission factory. Resignation, and the commission did recruit Jeffrey Getchell. Not the name of the person, but they said he's already been doing a lot of volunteer work with the commission, so they were recommending him. I have not published it to see if there are other people interested. I just got this information last week, but since they had already gotten someone interested, I thought maybe I'd bring it to you to say,
To publish it, or can they get in
no,
trouble,
or
or?
you don't, you're not required to publish.
This is their recommendation?
Yeah, Getchell has been doing a lot of the work for the commission and being involved with them of doing a lot of their computer work and things of that nature, and have been engaged with them for quite a while. So if he wants to come on and be a commissioner, I'd recommend we do that.
Can you spell his name for me?
Getzel.
Yes, sir. He actually revised all of their financial stuff and put it into spreadsheets where they were doing it in quite a convoluted method.
So if we're not required to publish it to get one, then I'd make the appointment.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second to appoint Jeffrey Getchell to the Historic Preservation Commission. Is there any further discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Looks like we lost our county attorney. Yeah, we could do our consent agenda.
We have the minutes and the claims and a couple liquor license, Buckton Bar and the Steiner Community Center.
I'd move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Do you have any committee reports?
Last week in Des Moines at the statewide supervisors meeting, just a quick report that, part of it was the legislative forum, and Mike Bergen, our representative, was in that forum. So thank you to Mike for attending that. There's a lot of active House and Senate files right now, just to keep an eye on those, check on the website and look at those different pieces of legislation, and, you know, always encourage everybody to use their voice and let our legislative level of government know how you feel about things. There's a lot happening right now.
John Hubertson's got the fellow lined up for Good Friday, that the courthouse will be closed to that second floor, complete to finish that second floor, and the stairs go to the second floor. Get that taken care of.
Great timing.
Good, very good timing. Then he's got contract established for both the roof of this and the roof of the old jail for that coming up, which will be, it's needed. So that's all, those two projects will be moving forward. Don't have any time frame yet on these roofs, but I know we do have that on the flooring. We do have a project coming up probably in April for the magistrate courtroom with a small change for the judge's bench and the witness thing in conjunction with the state project where they're adding, because of federal requirements, different cameras on, actually there's 4 cameras, a camera on the judge, a camera on the witness, cameras on both prosecutor and defense desk for monitors and a bunch of IT work that goes with it. And so we got some accommodation to do with that on both the witness box and accommodating equipment.
Who's doing that?
It's through a state contract on that portion of the IT portion, part of it, that's doing all 99 counties.
I've always seen.
And we happen to be falling in early on the whole process.
I'm not kidding. They had the last statewide contract
Wow.
for the audio visual.
Yeah. CTI did?
CPI did.
I don't think, I can't, I don't know if this was a guy, I thought this was a fellow from somewhere down Des Moines.
Could be.
I don't know. But we've got a number of different things that are happening with that, but it won't occur until sometime in April. I haven't got a firm date on it yet. But Judge Moonen is well aware and made his suggestions, so we're following those.
Andy? Good morning, Andy. Good morning. Got a few things here, have a public hearing, go procedures, Freeport land sale.
And I sent you a copy of the resolution, restriction. I think I proposed a date for the hearing in late March.
Is there a date?
March 18th, 10:30. I already added the date if it's available time slot, so,
What time?
okay, 10:30.
So we're going to,
They make that motion, set the public hearing for March 18th.
I want to discuss the resolution first. Do that?
It's not a motion, it's a resolution to schedule a public hearing. So,
Second.
ordinarily, make the motion, have the second, and have the discussion.
Yeah.
It's up to Dan.
That's fine. That's fine.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to set the public hearing for March 18th at 10:30 on the Freeport land sale. Is there any further discussion?
Yes. So if we vote yes for setting the public hearing, it's based on the resolution in front of us right now. It's based on that resolution, based on the parameters of that resolution. And one of the parameters of that resolution is to set all parcels that we're selling into the same rules and regulations as the flood fringe district, correct?
Yes.
So I would like to see us edit that and go back to the pedestal only construction point, because under the flood fringe district, as I read it and understand it, it does not eliminate the possibility for construction of compacted fill dirt to put in other buildings to be located 1 foot above floodplain. Correct?
That is part of the floodplain ordinance.
Right. So people could go in and they'd have to compact the soil to do fill. That's a requirement of doing fill, is to compact the soil. And when you compact the soil for construction 1 foot above the base floodplain level, you are eliminating the ability of those parcels to absorb water, and you're displacing water to other locations within the Freeport community with that filled dirt. And that's why I keep wanting to see us agree on a pedestal construction only, so that it does not include compacted fill, which then affects the whole community out there.
Any filled dirt would have to be okayed by the DNR.
Yes, but it's still allowable within the flood fringe district to do that, and the DNR could allow for flood filled dirt to be
We
put
don't
in
know
there.
that.
Exactly, we don't. So that's why I'm saying, I think we need to make it very clear that for the life of this land, it's pedestal construction only. So we don't adversely affect what happens to the community of Freeport in the long range.
It's kind of like not having a public hearing on the auto
Yeah.
confinement, and if we just assume the DNR is gonna rule a specific way,
You can't assume it on that.
well, you can't, but. I would agree with Shirley that, to me, it's just, it's in good faith, it should all be pedestal.
All right, is there any other discussion? It is a resolution. Shirley?
No,
No. Mark?
Aye.
Steve? I also. Yes. Next up, discuss act on CTI agreement and AV issues. Let's see.
Yeah.
So after we talked last week, Monday, I got a message from John that I forwarded on to you. Who brought up, I think, some legitimate concerns for how you want to grow CTI, given the infrastructure that we have in place and software that we're using. We, I think, need to, short of it is, I think we need to retain some type of relationship with CTI in order to gain any value out of the system as it goes so far. And I want to be real clear, want you to be real clear with me how far you want me to go with bending that relationship rather than breaking it, okay? And I thought it'd be good to have John up here to kind of explain the technology side of it and concerns I think both of us share.
Right. So I think when you guys talked through this last week, you guys did actually see some benefits with the camera system, with the microphone, as it relates to the online meetings, because I think that part of it is much better quality. The Owls used to have kind of a light filtering issue, so I think we've actually cleaned up the picture. I think that the audio that's going to the Teams meeting is much better. I was sitting in the back here. I kind of feel like this room is really too small to actually do the speakers. I could hear just fine. And I'm not that old, but I do farm, and so my hearing isn't the best either. So, but I think you guys are doing a better job of, basically sending your voice out to the audience. I'm probably not at this point because.
Now we can hear you.
Yeah, it's still better.
So I mean, by using the podium, getting the people that are speaking, facing this direction would help. But yeah, the software or the system is actually, it's operated by a computer. And it's a piece of software called QSys, which is a fairly common piece in the audio video industry. They have not given me access to that technology, and I don't know how it works or how to operate it. So my fear is that if you sever your relationship with CTI completely, will another company be able to come in and kind of tweak things? Because it's an industry software, I would guess the answer is yes, but I can't be certain. So I'm just wanting to make you guys aware of that. So as you have Andy, involved, what that looks like. So any thoughts?
How common, John, is it where when you have a software related to a project that you've purchased from another vendor that you're eliminated from access to the software?
It's pretty unusual, but I mean, again, I'm not an audio visual person. That's not my specialty. And so, like I said, it's not a common practice to exclude the customer. And I did talk with the city, and they have access to their system, but they don't feel comfortable maybe, tweaking it or, making adjustments to it. They can, but they're not, again, comfortable. Their vendor is out of La Crosse. I think it's I don't remember the name. We had talked with them early on and they kind of ballparked our project at 25,000 as well, so.
Their proposal had individual mics, and that was part of the reason you liked CTI better at the time, but they can't make that one work with it the same way, so.
Somebody had suggested, well, this part of the, moved over into that alcove. And then the audience would be out here. Would that change the dynamics of, as a potential solution to using what we have, but modifying it, putting speakers out here then for.
Yeah,
And they said, well, even the guy online said, yeah, why don't we just put a couple speakers on the wall over here, like regular speakers, not for both going, not do the ceiling that's tall.
I don't know, I think both companies, when we talked to them originally, even talked about trying to get you guys lined up a little more so you're all projecting this direction, but I mean, the room is just not easily configurable like that. So now we have equipment underneath the desks, at least under that main table, so you can't move it that far away from the floor jacks.
It works if you move this one that way just a little bit,
Right.
just a little bit, and then put the other one here, and then we could be facing them. It measures out fine.
So,
If we're willing to do that. Because if we're all facing that way when we talk, I think our voices do project differently than if we have our backs to them or if we're talking across the table.
But the,
Pardon?
You still won't get all five around the table.
Would it fit as a U? Facing that way?
no, you can't.
Well, let's don't deal with seating, let's deal with contract and with the access. I'm concerned about no access, being limited and have no access. So if anything goes wrong, we don't even have a chance,
Right.
And if we aren't satisfied with them, there's just an awful lot of things about not having any access to the software that we're purchasing. It sounds rather unreasonable to me.
I'm sure I can ask for it. I'm sure they'll give that to us, so.
It's like owning a building and not having keys to all of it.
which is kind of not uncommon in the technology industry.
Yeah, so the first question is, if you want to keep CTI for what you have, then we should pay them the other half we owe them for what they've already installed. And then you still need to address the hearing assistance system, and if you want to get them so that it works with what we have, or if you want to try to get us some other system that adds on or not. And then once you have that in place, then you have to figure out if you want to try to address the sound in the back of the room, so.
I have three questions. I think it's three. The first one is, I think we need to work with a bending of CTI and ask for a reduction in the total cost because we didn't get the total deliverables. So I think if we could negotiate for a reduction in the total value because we didn't get everything, that's what I'd like to see us do first. My second question is that if we move to a different company to look at hearing assist, that still doesn't solve our problem with people who don't need a hearing device that still can't hear us in the gallery. I mean, people of normal hearing can't hear us often in the gallery. So that doesn't solve that problem either unless we work with another company to try to get us amplified. If we're not going to be willing to move our seats, we need mics or something so that people in the room can hear what we're saying. And I don't remember what the third one would be. Those are my two concerns right now.
I think, John, do you see a way where you can take and go to another vendor or even equipment for the hearing assist devices? You've looked at a number of them that we can just simply tie off to the feed off of our online.
Well, and I don't know, we want to tie into the online piece, because I was experimenting back there and there's a little bit of a lag. So I think it actually does have to tie into the amp. And I looked at the amp, it looks fairly common. It just has copper inputs. So I assume, and I'm not an audio guy, but can you just plug that copper It's not just a plug, it's like a raw wire and you put the screws to it.
Terminal.
It's a terminal.
Old school.
It's an old, used to be. Right. So that seems very straightforward. So I would assume a cheaper assisted listening system would tie into that.
So would assisted listening system mean those who need it would ask if we put an assisted hearing device on them while they sit here?
Yes.
How does that then solve the problem? One, most people who have hearing problems already have an assisted hearing device that they pay for and they wear. Second, it doesn't solve the problem that people of absolutely perfect hearing can't hear us. That's my concern, is how do we make it so that people with just normal hearing ability can hear us when they're sitting in the audience?
As to your first question, your ADA compliance issue is the reason that you have those available.
Right, that meets the minimum requirement for ADA, but I still want our audience to be able to hear what we say.
Second question.
Right.
You asked about why would we put these in when people have hearing aids? Because we need to have them.
How do we answer the second question? Because that'll still remain a big concern, is if our audience can't hear us, our citizenry can't hear us, and they're of normal hearing ability, how do we solve that?
We have previously had a discussion about, we only sit on the sides of the table. We don't sit with people with their back to to our visitors. So that's a simple fix. We also have a pedestal that Andy was kind enough to podium to, and we can use that if we need to also. But I think that solves it, and we meet the compliance issue we need. I think we can go one step further that would be worthwhile and investigate some sound soak panels. I have no confidence in CTI to go forward with any more work for us other than what they've done. I mean, I have not seen anything that gives me any confidence that they'll make it any better.
This is kind of an off the wall idea, but that podium, why not make that a standalone speaker system? I mean, I know people have trouble hearing me. That's a given. I'm not that loud. But if you put a microphone in that, and you put a couple of speakers and amplifier and it pointed speakers this direction, you know, whatever directions it needs to be. If I'm meeting with you, I'm by the podium. If it's meeting with you, John, whoever, have me by the podium, use that microphone and use that to project voices this way. You guys, I don't hear as much issue back here about your projection because you're facing them. It might be a fix that isn't very expensive and it's
But they said any amplification is messing with this microphone up here, which then causes the problem.
even if we point it strictly back this direction.
Their claim.
So we can try it.
I still think the guy that they went back to said, well, why don't we just put the speakers on the wall and try that and not use the ones in the ceiling? I don't think they've exhausted the options for speakers that would be different directional ones that are in the ceiling or on the wall. I think they could still come up with a better thing. They said, oh, if it hits the carpet, it's still gonna bounce off of that. Like, I said, well, not like it would off of the glass.
I'd like to also offer that anybody that attends our meetings can sit anywhere in this room. You all own it. You're all citizens. Elaine sits up close so she can hear us talk. You're more than welcome to do that and sit around the room.
That's what Elaine has said,
Well-
and I understand that, and she has good hearing with her assistive devices. But also, this is the space, and you don't find that in other meetings. You don't find that down at Decorah. There is a gallery where the visitors are sitting, and I don't see a need to change it.
I'm gonna keep it that way, then we
Then
need to
I
make
think-
every effort that they can
Then
hear
we,
us.
I think
then
we
we're
can make
doing
it
that,
happy.
sure.
But it hasn't turned out like we want.
And we spent a lot of money to try to get results.
Just
Poor results because of the contractor, in my opinion.
pay them and we won't ask any more from them is my solution.
Get access to the software, pursue some other options for assisted devices.
You don't want to negotiate
We
for a
gotta
lower
get
price?
ADA. We gotta be. Addressor should get the ADA compliance units.
So,
We get some cheaper ones, like, that would work.
Well, they're the same, that's similar equipment. This is commercial grade that John was looking at. It's not,
Yeah,
we're
but,
not,
yeah.
we're not buying something,
We're not.
you know, an 11 o'clock news hour, you know,
Yeah,
so if we're gonna. pay
online
them,
shopper.
You're saying pay them and cut ties with them?
I have no confidence in them. That's just my opinion.
Because they're the ones that are able to adjust, it's on the computer, they can adjust the pickup on this microphone and the specific
They've
outputs
still
on
got
the
a
speakers.
contractual obligation with us for that. Because they gave us in that there was a service period where they,
1 year.
For 1 year, but what
Yeah.
happens after 1 year?
then we can see how well they do. We find out if they can do it. If they can't do it, then we have to look elsewhere.
Well, they can't do it. I mean, that's the problem.
So
I would say we negotiate to not pay them what, they did not fulfill the obligations they said they would.
I'd like to
No.
look into negotiating a lower price.
If they want to come and try this, the speaker thing, I think it would help if we had the tables this way facing the audience and have a podium for the guests to speak and talk to us.
the podium is gonna push them, everybody, their voice again in this direction.
It would be off to the side. If we're sitting here and the podium is over here on the side, they're talking to the audience too.
And you're watching the speaker. Or the-
When they're watching.
Well, if wherever the podium is, that's who your natural vision is gonna go to who is the person who is speaking.
I don't, as long as I can hear them, I don't need to see them. Or I can hear them to the speaker.
Now
It's at the
now
podium.
your voice is projecting
But I'm not talking,
away.
they're talking.
Well, if you're asking, if it's a cut and dry, if it's a back and forth discussion, like we had with Dan Marks this morning, he should not have been sitting at the end, even though he has a loud voice.
And,
He should not have been sitting at the end of the table.
And if
He should
just-
be sitting to the side.
but also, if it would work with the way the speakers are supposed to be working, this would amplify what people are saying.
Yeah, and instead of walls, put it like you do a monitor, put it on the ceiling, let it come down on top of the people, maybe. I don't
That's
know.
what this is, but that's what doesn't work. And I
Well,
still don't think
I
it's
think
not
this,
the right speaker. in
those
there.
speakers are wrong, I think.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that.
So I think they should,
maybe give them one more chance to try a
I think they should,
little better speaker or
if
something.
they agree, even, we should try the speakers on the wall or, no, not these ones that see, but I think
Not these.
not this size one, no.
If you look up at the courthouse, the system they put in there, above the jury box, there are 3 speakers. They're about, I'd say 8x10, 8x12, and they're fanned. And, that's a big room and it covers, with the microphone system, it covers that courtroom area pretty well. And there's also speakers in the back in the gallery area, but, like Mark is saying, the small ones, they aren't the main speakers that are used in that size room. I think trying something a little larger would be helpful. And they've done it before.
I think they need to think about addressing the speaker itself issue, and we could put some sound panels up. But,
That's a whole separate issue.
yeah, but I think
Would be beneficial.
they need to produce more before we give them the full amount.
Get that to them.
They got
What do you got to offer?
How about a hearing on hearing?
Good idea.
No,
No, you don't want us to hear?
I didn't say that. You said that.
Let's
I did.
decide what we're
I just
doing.
asked you, sir.
No.
I just asked.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Let's just
No, I said,
come up with a solution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to take one of them
If
speakers, like,
CTI, if they come again and they can't fix it with different speakers, you want to retain pay them for what they've already done, even though they say they can't do it. I mean, at that point, if you've got to get another company in here to start from scratch, do you want, there may be some consideration to just have them put in all new stuff rather than trying to then hodgepodge what CTI already put in with something else that a different company has to do. So I don't think John or I or any of us are expert enough to figure something else out if CTI can't do it. That's what I'm wondering. I mean, we maybe give them one more chance before we pay them, but I'd be reluctant to pay them for the whole amount for something that we can't make work and then go back and have to take bids to try to fix that part and incorporate something we've already paid a lot of money for into that. I'd be a little worried you get another company and they say, well, we're gonna have to take all this out and you're out the 25,000 you've already spent. You're a little worried about that end of it too.
So we got 2 cameras, a microphone, and a processor running out back here. That's $25,000 worth of the labor obviously is included in that, but I don't see it. What we're stuck with.
Knowing what we asked them for in the beginning and explaining to them, and Shirley was here with the exact pieces with the salesperson. And they have not fulfilled what we asked them to do. Give another try then. Because I'm not, I mean, we're not gaining, where do we cut our losses and walk?
Give them one more try.
I would be in favor of negotiating down a price and seeing if we could get the firm out of La Crosse to just get us some working speakers.
That works with the system they've already provided.
I think systems are not that unique. I think the technology is the same from system to system. It's like saying your Mac won't work with that Mac. I mean, it's AV technology. I think it's going to be compatible. We can find that out, but I don't think we should pay the full price for not getting the full thing.
I think we should ask the lacrosse company can come and say, well, we can work with this and make it work for you. I can talk to them.
They could come and give us a bid.
If CTI can't get it done, I'd just say, get this fixed, and if they can.
What are your feelings?
I mean, I was listening to Dan, and he was facing this way and I could hear him. So the room is so small that things bounce off. I mean, if I talk this way, I think you guys back here can probably hear me.
So you're talking loudly.
You're
I'm
talking louder.
Well, just.
Why couldn't you sit up front beside Nate?
Yeah, I'd be
Then
fine
you're
with that
talking
too.
at everybody at the table and at.
And most of the time, you don't have people that come that often or for the length of time. Besides Andy and the engineer, 5 minutes, I can stand for 5 minutes and talk.
You can just stand there by the podium, turn the podium around an angle, talk out that way on the podium. and-
Just be up front.
We'll give Andy a bullhorn.
I heard you.
I'm fine standing. I'm good with it.
I know.
Is there any other legal questions? You said you're gonna get a hold of. Yep.
We all agree around the table on that? Okay.
So you do not want me to pay the other half of the bill to CTI yet? Or do you want me to pay that? That's what
But
I'm.
we do need to have them come back and have one more try. I think that's the idea.
No, we're saying right now that we'd have lacrosse come in and take a look at it. Are we agreeing that we could have Andy work on negotiating down the total cost?
Let's do that after you have lacrosse.
Or else
Okay.
take a look. If they say, no, they can't do
But
that.
until that, don't pay the bill,
Okay.
right? We agreeing on that? I
What
do
about
have
next
one more
week's
question
agenda?
for Andy.
Can they be here tomorrow?
I won't be here next Monday. We're going to Nashville over the weekend and we fly back on Monday, so. But I can give you a report by Friday.
That'd be fine.
Great.
Would that be good?
Have fun.
We got postponed because of the last snowstorm, so.
They've got a great farmer's market.
Yeah.
I have one quick question for you. At the meetings last week, it came up to ask a question of our county attorney. Are all of our elected officials in Winneshiek County bonded? Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Anything else?
I have one question. I'll make it generic because we have the engineer here on that accident report that came through last week. Where it again was a recurrence of a back issue. Where we've had previous discussion about truck seat and that. Are
We
we,
have received more medical information and it's being processed. We've worked with work now. There is a form that's being completed and submitted, and we're getting a seat.
Okay, because I don't want to see us not being responsive to that. I don't want
The
to
purpose,
see a issue there.
but the purpose of the form is making sure that we're not opening ourselves up to do this for anybody who feels they want to change.
Yeah, medical.
That it has to be.
When the second one came through with the nurse's note on there of the comments again, I thought it was prudent that we know that we're moving forward.
It's in process.
Thank you.
I walked out of my office and left the Lynch Dallas contract on the desk. I'll run that up with my signature on it, so we can start that relationship.
Those others were at the vendor last week, but I didn't see Lynch Dallas. I was hoping they'd be there.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks.
Next on the agenda, thank you for being patient, Michael. Kueny, County Engineer, and Mike Weis. Morning, guys.
Morning.
I bet you're both wondering which way to sit right now, aren't you?
Definitely. I'm just gonna try to,
Mark, you better
I can back up.
you can angle here.
Okay. Got it down a bit.
No.
My name is Mike Weis. I'm a tech here in the engineering department. I was putting the plans together for W14 project. For this talk, I guess the projects we're gonna be talking is the one from Fortis building. And then I think we'll just call that the south. And then obviously Stillville, Ridgway, we'll just call it north. Steve came in about a week ago and he wanted to know, and this is the discussion on whether we should be doing 4 inches of asphalt, new asphalt, or 3 inches. And if we did 3 inches, which section would we do preferably? I put these cross sections together. They're composites of the information that we have available in the engineer's office as far as the history. So this is the south one, and the original cross section there basically dates to the 1950s. So I scan them in, set it in there. And then we go back in the records trying to find what we have for material. This one was a little bit of a mystery at first because you can see there's a 1970s and a 1990s on the right as far as previous projects. What happened was we went out and we cored it. We often go out with a core machine a few years prior to a project and we'll take cores to see what we do have. And so the cores are on the left in that table. And you can see we have an average thickness of about 5 inches of existing asphalt. The interesting part was we didn't have overly good records of when that asphalt was put on. So we kind of made some assumptions that in the 1970s, they put a 2-inch lift. And then in the 1990s, they did about another 2 inch. And we can look at photographs. We have photographs of some of our bridges and stuff. So we can go back through and look at them and see what the surface looks like. So that's the south cross section. As I said, we have 5 inches of asphalt. On the north section, the north section wasn't as much of a mystery, but it was a surprise. We've been doing culverts out there for the last several years plus. And everybody thought that from Stillville to Ridgway were fairly solid, or at least had some asphalt to it. Once we started digging it up for pipe, and you can kind of see in some places where the blades have scraped away the surface, it's a chip seal. All it is, and all it ever has been, is just a chip seal, which is somewhere around 1.25 inches of basically kind of asphalt. It's a aggregate with binder that we put down. So this road, in the 1950s, they constructed it, and then in the 1990s, they went in and they milled it all up. We come in with a mill or planer, mill it all up, put it back down, regrade it to a cross slope, and then they put a chip seal back on top of it. So they added about 3 inches of stone, kind of reinforced it a little bit, and then went back over it again with the chip seal. And since that time, we've done some wedging and various things because obviously the heavier traffic and not having over great shoulders, it gets pushed out. And so one of the problems with the road is that your edges start to fall off pretty deep. And so when you look at the two cross sections, I guess, and kind of the history, the biggest difference between the two is that you have 5 inches of asphalt on the north and maybe 1 inch or on the south and 1 inch on the north. So as far as which section you would rather go with, if you're just looking at the depth of asphalt existing, obviously, if you're gonna thin up and do 3 inch on one section, you'd probably want that on the south. Other factors that come into play is that since we do have more material on the south, we are planning on cold and placing it. Coming through with a milling machine operation, it's a train. We'll grind it up, we'll add binder, put it back down, compact it. So we're doing that base stabilization, which should also therefore help us. And then that also, it not only helps us with strength, with getting good base down, but it helps us with the cross. So you can make the existing asphalt that you're gonna come over, or the existing surface that you're gonna come over, more uniform instead of having tire ruts and, as we mentioned, the pushed out shoulders and so forth. Once we do put that, if we go with 1.5 inches, we'll be able to get more of a uniform 1.5 inches everywhere. When we do the north part and we do 2 inches, you know, we're gonna have those tire ruts and different things. Some places we're gonna be 1 inch, 1/2 inch maybe with that first lift. Other places we're probably gonna be 2, 3, and 4. So those are some of the considerations. One other one is traffic count. The traffic count on the north is almost twice that on the south. We get about 670 vehicles a day right now. That was a 2021 count. And on the south, we're at 360. When I went back and I looked at the data, if we went back into the 50s, when they regraded both sections in the 50, they were at about the same traffic count. But obviously now the north gets quite a bit more. And one of it might be that south part's just rough enough. People try to find an alternate route.
Absolutely.
You might be right on that.
Yeah, and you can actually look at the traffic counts of the nearby roads. And as the road has gotten rougher, they go off to the other sides.
It'd be definitely interesting when we get finished with it to see what that vehicle count does.
Just the dirt bike past the church and go around, gravel.
So I guess, yeah, giving the depth, given the fact that we're cold in placing and stabilizing the depth or the base, giving the traffic count, I guess the recommendation would be if you're gonna, for budget reasons, everybody would like 4 inches, but if we have to go with 2 1.5s for 3, the south would probably be the one that would be more logical.
Do the 3.
Yep. In order to get this thing in this year.
Yeah.
Get it paved and
3 inch on the south and the 4
4
inch
on the north.
Where I'm coming from is, this is your PE. I'm
Yeah.
looking at you, Michael.
Yes,
This is your PE, like this on the line.
yes, right.
I would put my trust in your team's recommendation on this because of your degree. We can't tell you what to do. We can only provide a budget. It's up to you and your professional opinion, what we should do on these with your knowledge.
So that, thank you for that. I think that what I really trying to work with Mike on is trying to get up to speed on all of the information. Even things like the traffic count being different from south and north is something that Mike has probably told me, but I forgot. It's just I don't have the background, so I have to really lean on these guys, the project background. So I have to talk and then relay the message to the board. And so for these projects coming in, I have to kind of work with both sides, and I've been a little bit more just trying to be middleman rather than being owner of the project on that, if that makes sense.
So if I may, talk from the budget end, you basically have 3 options. One is you come up with the $540,000 someplace, or you put the project off Or you do something like this where you scale back half of it to 3-inch. 4-inch, which still is gonna require some money you have to come up with, but not nearly as much. Is that right?
Yes.
And I don't think anyone wants to put it off, and I don't think anyone wants to.
The other ace in the hole is the Spillville project, the Main Street project, and how that, just the Main Street project, they need to let it, if the city of Spillville needs to let it, in June, then that's beyond $540,000 more, so that's gonna be a
whole nother problem.
discussion. So that is,
A freeze-thaw cycle on their water project there would be a benefit.
Better anyway, yeah.
that is the idea, and that was, Nick Rissman threw that out, not this last meeting, but the previous meeting, as something that would be beneficial, and it makes sense.
Would probably be what, need 250 to 300 would be for the
If you
4-inch on the north over
I think it's 350. Oh, on the north.
north.
If you go to
yeah.
4-inch on the north, 3-inch on the south, you had some figures. What did you think maybe we would have to come up with extra money? The problem is that you're gonna let this in June. You have to have that money in the bank in June. You can't say, well, next year we'll skip this or that, because that doesn't start till July. And we only get so much per month. So you have to have the money in the bank before the DOT will let you go to the, go to the bid.
Rough numbers here, I'm estimating that if we do the 4 and 3, that we will have to fund our FM account roughly $250,000, $200,000 to $250,000. If we do a full 4 inches, then we're funding it $540,000. And that assumes no Spillville project being let in June. We let later on, but there's no guarantee it would be project would be completed then. So we're having active conversations with Origin, the consultant with Spillville, as to when the final product is going to be and when it's going to be there.
I had a strong push for the 4-inch on all of it, but now after looking at these cross sections, that stuff kind of speaks for itself.
Makes a lot of sense.
When I
I
went,
have no problem with 3 inches on that.
so I went in there and went over this with Mike, and when he showed me these pages, that's when I asked Mike if he would bring Mike, so we'd all see this, because this makes all the sense in the world
Yeah,
on that south section.
It does.
Because there's no way, you drive it, think this is, a road from Hades, but no, that's why nobody wants to. There's no traffic on it. Or they go down as far as the
church,
old
they
church,
travel.
they cut a right, and we've had complaints from the homeowners over on where they do the detour and go around, because the amount of dust that they get.
So my next question from a budget perspective is that you can direct these guys to get it set that way, get it in the works, which means that sometime between now and June, you have to come up with the 250,000 or 200 to 250,000 to put in the FM account.
But Michael, you don't make you're not recommending that under any circumstance that you do 3 on the north section between Spillville and.
No, I don't think 3 inches is a good idea on that, because we want good pavement, and then for the, not just this time, but for the road as it ages.
Yeah, we put a good investment in that road last year with all of the work that we did of the shouldering. And I think that's the way to move. And I think this justifies it in my mind.
What are our options for coming up with that 250? Where does that come from?
I have 2 options that are fairly straightforward. One is if you sell the land in Freeport and it happens to be that amount, that would cover it. Now, we'd put it in next year's budget. We would have to just make sure we didn't spend it next year if we end up spending it yet in June. The other option is we transfer the money from the general fund, which puts us 250,000 behind. But then next fiscal year, we don't transfer the general fund dollars that we were going to the road fund. That would make the general fund still whole. Now, that means then the road fund is short money next year. So that isn't desirable. They're already pushing their budget, but
I did some more work on the budget this weekend, so
and we're gonna go through that.
we're gonna do that next, yes.
So I think that, you know, if we penciled in that if you sold that property for 250 or whatever the dollar amount is, you could then spend it next year. But if you sell it and need to spend it yet this year, we'll have to add it in a budget. But that would be the easiest way to come up with the money, because then you aren't cutting something else. I mean, that's your only other option is, I mean, you could cut some other department, 250,000, but I don't think that's desirable either. You could just spend it, but your carryover was already down a couple percent below what the recommended is. You spend another 250,000, that's gonna push it down another couple percent, and pretty soon I would never recommend you spending it down below 20%, because we need to have money in the bank when the new year starts. Can't be just deficit spending indefinitely.
Well, that's federal government. But we may have to look at some budget renewal, some budget reductions also, still before we're done.
I think another place you could help this does not help this project at all. But you're already looking at next year, putting some more money in that road clearing account. Maybe you offer to put during a budget amendment, another couple $100,000 yet this year, because you have extra money in the borough fund. Borough fund money can't go towards this project. You can't put borough fund money in the FM account. That's not allowed. But it could be used to put a little extra money in that road clearing account, so that if there's seeding or equipment or other ditch work that's happening this spring, you aren't still
Taking it out of
burdening
the
that
budget.
out of the road fund. You could do it this, use some money
Yeah.
there. Basically, your road fund had more money than you expected, because this local option sales tax came in about 250,000 more than you expected, what we put in the budget a year ago. So that would be a good place where you could put some of that money, help unburden the road fund. Then if the Freeport sale doesn't come in high enough, or you decide not to sell that, and you have to cut some out of the transfer to the road fund next year, at least you've made some of it up ahead of time.
So
What do we need to do?
Well, I think the first thing is he needs to set this plans, whatever it is, and you maybe have already submitted it, so you maybe need to amend them or whatever you need to do with the DOT, so this can be in the works, because it takes 3 months with them to get it, to be able to do the bid. So you need to guarantee him that you'll come up with the $250,000, whatever the number is,
We'll get her done.
by June, so that he can have that part going. Then we have to figure out over the next couple months, we don't have to know today, but know where we're gonna come up with that.
I don't think we should depend on the sale of the land in Freeport for this to go forward or not.
I
Because we don't know how
I
that.
just said,
We
that would be an option.
There's other options.
So we had also talked about, to be able to use that road fund money, the clearing money for roadsides, billing workers separately from 2 different departments then, which is, if we went by that process, we would be able to harvest quite a bit of money. So
With respect, do we need to?
It's a
Right, I think if we have
logistical.
200,000 or 250,000 we can do without doing that, then we just do that.
But we could do that.
You could do that too, but at some point, then now you're getting the rural fund too, I mean, you can't go just completely, because it has the same restrictions as the general fund. So spending 250,000, I think is okay, because that was much extra you got this year, and what we put in bumped up the local options, those 250 next year, anticipating that, and so we put it in there. I don't know if we want to do 500,000 or something, because then pretty soon you're gonna be spending more than you're putting
All
in.
the cookies will be out of the cookie jar, stick in your hand.
But I think we're all in agreement that Michael's recommendation of 3 and 4 is the way we should go, and this all makes sense.
And we'll come up with your.
You come up with the money somehow, so you can,
And my work this weekend might suggest that we may not need that 250 might be covered.
okay,
So.
we'll talk about that
We'll talk
next.
that next, so. That's, I don't wanna sound the alarm bells in front of everyone
Yeah.
right now, 'cause I did spend some time on that, trying to look deeper into the budget. Yeah.
And we did schedule the workshop now, so with the idea that he might need an hour or something yet, so.
Do we need a motion to accept this project?
No, I think you just have them,
It's your decision, so.
I think we've given them a direction.
Okay. On with W14. Next up, the 5-year plan, long-term budget planning workshop. Thanks, Mike.
if we're gonna try to not put anyone at that end, you don't wanna lay the tables out differently, we should at least put that smaller table down there, so you can get more room on the sides. Because otherwise, it's, I feel kind of scrunched
Oh,
here.
they could go right, there is room.
There's that too, if they don't wanna do that, which I've heard discussion,
Mhm.
we should at least put that one down here, so that we have more side space.
Can we
You go, sir.
decide to try it the other way and see if it works? Would you guys willing to try it one way? And see if it will work?
Try what?
Just try the tables this way one morning and see how it goes for sound. This doesn't have to move that much, it all fits this way, and it just gives us more room to spread out instead of there.
We may, and we may still, even if you put this one on this side, put that little one on that side, so that if we aren't using one whole side, that we get more.
And they all three fit, this one, and that one fit this way, and there's still room for access on each side. And it gives us plenty of space. If we're willing to try it. I'm willing to move them after this meeting or for next Monday's meeting. It gives us more space this way and we're all facing that way. And we won't be crowded.
Yeah, I feel too crowded here, and it's not so bad now, but you know, when pandemic was here, this whole, like,
Right.
everyone sitting shoulder to shoulder was like,
Because we could have the short one on too.
that's what brought this up, is we should at least add more tables.
Would you guys be willing to try it one morning to just see how it goes? It's not, it wouldn't require any more work than unlocking these and moving them and having a short one on the end and facing all that way. I think it's worth a try. Well, is there any consensus around the table?
No, I think so.
Okay, so 4,
2 tables,
Okay.
us this way, that's all.
perfect. Okay,
Leave
let's
that
try
one
it.
alone over there, you can get everybody around 3 sides of this one pretty easy. If that doesn't work, we'll plan B.
If you're not using one whole side, you put one person on each end, 3 supervisors on the other side, where will I sit? You
Yeah.
want me to sit over there, or?
There ain't gonna be enough room to
Because it's.
put 3 along here and 2 on the end.
Otherwise, you have 4 people.
Instead of one.
Yeah.
You guys, that
Put-
one does fit
So
too.
you
We
put 3
measured it
across,
out.
you gotta put 3 across one end. Then you only get one.
3 across one side isn't so bad, I think, we try to get 4, is where it
Yeah.
gets crowded.
You
So I
can't
could
do
either sit over there, or,
All I'm saying is that one does fit with these two this way, and there's still room on each side, plenty of room. I
Yeah,
measured it out.
too bad for
before.
the media people, but you know. Yeah.
Not my idea.
Misery loves company.
All right, go ahead, Mike.
There's no one in the gallery right now, so you can.
I like, that's a little more natural.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure how to proceed exactly, though.
You wanna go through any of your weekly stuff before you jump into the,
There's not a whole lot going on, a lot of, I don't know how public this is public, so I can't speak to personnel matters. But that took a lot of my time last week, so, less, production per se last week with that going on. But if we can just jump right into the budget, I yeah, the staff print out the road, expenditures and the road income for the last several years since this is taped together so that I can, and doing some of my.
is there multiple, this is one report.
Yeah, that's all the expenses. And, that's all the income. And so what I did was I used trends on that to, and come up with what I think my budget for the next 3 or 4 years was, and then, which is a first run budget. And we can talk about that later, but, I think what we need to talk about more importantly is June, with this W14 project that we all talked about. Using some of that same information,
Is it one of these for everybody?
no, there's not, and it's a lot more information than you can even process, so it's there if we need it. And if you wanna look at it, I can hand it out.
Thanks for that vote of confidence, Mike.
You're probably right, but yeah.
Not gonna digest it in a minute or two.
But basically, going through all the information and knowing that we have a $600,000 loan that we need to get paid by June. We have, I'm estimating we're gonna be at, $1.2 million. With the normal revenues and expenses coming in. With the 1.2 million, would subtract out W14, whatever cost we have there. We would be subtracting out roughly we have the one account that has the for the roadside, there's $103,000 in the roadside equipment fund.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the ditch fund, thank you. So that fund has $103,000 that we would put into some equipment. But that equipment, we would still owe $400,000 on. So 1.2 million minus 400,000. We have material for Frankville that we need to purchase, which is going to be about 45 to 90K is what I've estimated.
Yeah, for culverts.
Culverts and that whole work, yes. We have, and then we have 2 bridges that need to be done as soon as possible, and their total billings are looking at $280,000.
One of them being out on the River Road.
Correct. And the other one is 313.
Weren't there 3 on this year's plan?
There were, but I think one of them is funded. So.
And those 2 are only available funding with local funds.
Local funds.
Correct.
Little smaller project.
Yeah.
Yeah, 313 is that large bridge over the Turkey?
Yes.
Yes, south and west of Ridgely.
Yeah, and actually the other bridge that we have funding on is also in the same area, 307. So, yeah, some. I did, when I did the budget, I was talking through the letter that I had sent you last week about the funding. I was in a different, understanding of how big that 1.2 million would be. I was thinking it was gonna be about 600,000, so, and the difference is quite simply, April's transfer of cash is basically the difference, that I did not account for, on the previous budget.
I transfer money to the road department each month based on the prior month's property tax payments. So the next half of the property tax payments is due in March. So in April, he's gonna get a much larger transfer than normal.
And I had not included that in my previous calculations. And it was there every year, so I think that's why I've come up with, I'll call it new numbers. And, so I think we are sitting better than the discussion that we had just had, and, I think W14 still, I mean, 540,000 is, coming up with a lot of funds, is an awful lot of funds, and then there leaves us no room. And then with our rock contract, we usually pay that in July. So I would probably still be requesting funds from you if we, we're gonna go full 4 inches and doing the Spillville Main Street project. But outside of that, outside of doing all 3 projects, and a full 4 inch as intended, I think that we have enough funds, and that I think that I'm gonna pull back on that request to use the funds from the property sale, for this budget. So,
This $600,000 note loan you're talking about,
yes.
what?
So right now, we have loaned from the general fund to the road fund $600,000, which is for cash flow purposes. But that is legally required to be paid back by June. You cannot let that cross fiscal years. That's only for cash flow. And what happens is each year you buy one of your biggest expenses out of the road department is the gravel for the roads, and you do that in July before you've had any new money coming in for the next budget. His property taxes aren't even due till September, so he spends down his available balance right at the beginning of the fiscal year. So then when it's time to make your regular payments, you have to borrow money from the general fund.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you for being a little more eloquent than I could be. Thank you. So yeah, I think I think that we are sitting that $600,000 difference that makes all the difference in the world for my original estimation. So,
Into the ditch fund, you'll call it.
Mhm.
Yet this spring, that if they're having claims that are specifically for equipment or seeding,
Go for ditch.
that can be the ditch, they could use some of that, because we do have a little extra. Little fund money. Not like indefinite extra, but a little extra, so a
Next
couple
year.
100,000, yeah.
Yeah, we could, is that the 300,000 that we're talking about for fiscal year 25?
Yep, and so right now you have 103 left in there. And what I'm saying, if we could probably bump that up to
That-
300 this year too.
Yeah,
Right
wow.
If
Oh.
you have money to spend on it this year, but it can only be used for ditch related,
work.
yeah.
Okay, well,
Labor, equipment, and decent
Seeds.
The equipment don't take long.
no, but we want to use, well, and that
I mean, if you got-
$400,000, if you're gonna do that, then that $400,000 that I subtracted off the top does come down when because we're in the hole, $400,000 on the stuff that we want to use, so the 20,000 with a tractor, with the mower is one of the things that we want to get.
Yeah.
So that is definitely.
Yeah, we could spend you could spend 300,000.
We have
Necessarily spend 300,000 just to mow and spray more though. We need to use that wisely as well.
and our current sprayer is in the shop, and they're talking about whether or not to repair the engine or get a new engine itself, and that's the estimate, the rough estimate is, 15K. So we are negative on that. When I say negative, I'm saying that we do have immediate needs for that money.
So what I think,
Definitely.
I think is okay from a budget perspective, and they're agreeing with is we would amend some end right away, so you can go this spring yet.
And get
With
some
that,
stuff.
yeah, with that stuff.
Okay, and so that would be something I would work on basically after this meeting and figuring out what it is.
What's, how much,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't think this, from a fiscally, careful perspective, we should push it more than 250 maybe at
No.
most. But because that's about how much more we got in than we expected, so if we amend that and give you another 250 in that fund yet this year, that might help, so.
That would definitely make me breathe easier come June and July.
Yeah.
So that's where
I'm gonna make a
that's
note
really
right
where
now.
I'm most
Work with you on that.
tight on. I just feel like the June, July situation, because I haven't done it before. I don't know what I don't know on that. So,
You'll find out.
one way or another. Oh. So, yeah, this was good news before my Chiefs won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I did.
Mahomes came through for you. Huh?
Boo.
I'm unlike most people because that was a very fantastic defensive game because I played defense in high school, so it was fun. But yeah, I was really liking how the San Francisco's defensive line was playing. So
But you wouldn't want to be the guy that took Kelsey's shoulder.
no, yeah, that was a big, yeah. So I guess we came in to talk about all of this. I just feel like we are, as to the extent that I can tell, we are in a better situation than the discussion we had last week with Spillville.
Yep.
Where I was kind of disappointed that the missing 600,000 that I was not in my budget, is actually there. So.
This is good news.
So it's good news. I found it, so anyway.
But you slept a little better after you found that.
It was a good, for the most part, it was a good day yesterday.
A Super Bowl win.
Well, I try not to make that reflective of my day, but it was good that I found that, I think. And I feel good about, I feel confident that that is correct. So again, I used the past numbers here and I tried to project out, 4 or 5 years because I'm still working on that 5-year plan. And I have a rough one if you want to see the 5-year plan. This is the to-date 5-year plan. When I have a second copy here that has some of my notes on that. That's the thing.
You want me to, here, I'll just make copy. Oh, wait, we can't make them on this size paper.
Yeah, it's the 8.5 by,
Some up on the edge.
and I can,
You can send it out to us.
yes, I can send it out to you.
Or just make one and hand one out next week.
Okay.
That way, that works.
Absolutely, but the plans, one thing I noticed on these construction, this 5-year program is it's front loaded for this year. And so we're spending quite a bit of money this year and budget for 2025, 2026, 27, and 28 is a little sparse, so I think we should be looking at doing another project or two, or determining some kind of maintenance projects that I'll be working with Mike, the staff, and figuring out maintenance projects to do. But I do need some input on that. Our staff came up with five different projects.
There's not many.
So I haven't incorporated any of these projects into the 5-year plan, but that is gonna be where that'll be with the RPA funds that are 2028 funding. I think it's 2.8 million. I'm gonna be working with the budget and trying to get another one of those plans put in, assuming that our bridges are
Say Middle Kilmer.
yeah, there's no surprise with the bridges, there's no bridges that
Them two
are become unfunded.
What'd you say?
Middle Kilmer Road and Caution Blacktop would be two
Those two are pretty bad.
highly recommended.
So,
Dana's making copies of that 5-year plan.
okay,
Get her up.
thank you.
Yeah.
And then,
Heavily traveled road.
They are.
Yep.
Well, we should have to do that one too.
yeah, I should have,
That one's a smaller one, though. I can do it here.
okay. That's the actual budget for this year.
Need this paper remover in this room, Ben. We could ever get one for the drawer.
That's an issue we're gonna have. It's 9-1. It's on the road.
I can get mine up, I'll use this pens.
These are movable, done. They're just 4 screws.
If you get a setup you really like, you could probably have the drawer.
That's all you're just saying, yeah.
They need some extras, I got 2 in my shop. Right? Yeah, 2 in my shop.
While we're waiting, well, citizen had a concern about the double box culvert up in Freeport. Where
Yes.
some through that land we're selling.
Yes.
and The one side is obstructed. Did you look at that at all?
Okay, so I just came back from there.
Yeah.
So we had gone out, we being superintendent, and I had gone out there a month ago, and we looked at the area. the downstream side of the box culvert is silted in, the upstream ditch has lots of fallen trees. And the biggest concern is that those fallen trees on the upstream side start to clog and then push the water up and around. That's number one consideration. But we were down there just today on the way back from a meeting with the Iowa DOT, and the wheeled excavator.
Yeah.
The wheeled excavator is in the locust shop, and I think they're gonna start clearing, it isn't for sure yet, but they're gonna start trying to clear those trees.
But I was out
They're
there,
gonna start clearing the trees. And after that, the ask would be for the, wheel excavator to clear out the silt on the downstream side. So that
it looked like both, the one side is about 3 feet of fill, so only one box is being used really.
right,
As ends of that. On our public, built up.
yeah, this, as soon as we saw it, the discussion was that we would address it this summer. We're not relative, we were extremely dry. So the chances of flooding are, I mean, it makes it so that it's not an urgent.
But just look, right now, like, it's only half of it's being used, it's still on the other side.
Yeah. I haven't climbed inside of it, but since we're gonna get to it, I think that it should be fine. And a big event should, it should, there are a lot of on a big event. So, yeah, you don't know that, and that's it, but it's not a.
It's best off to haul it out of there, cause you don't want it silting down and you're gonna silt in more.
No,
You gotta get it out of there, cause you're gonna, if it goes downstream, it's gonna silt in more, raise, the water's gonna run out of that.
Yeah, just
More
no
It
one
looks like a big chunk of material needs to come out of the edge.
Yeah, and that's the idea, is it's gonna be taken to the. One by one. If it's suitable. They'll mix it in.
That probably ain't best shoulder.
No, this is good black dirt to have.
Their ditch bill is what, it's good for road or clean the ditches. It's got the-
So, yeah, the long story short, it's being addressed, and it just so happens that we have. We're going to do this really soon.
Yep, good.
We should throw the old one away, 'cause the new one, this is the one you passed out about a month ago.
I don't think much has changed on that, so. Just, just as a note on the budget and not the program. I still have a locust shop in that budget. You look at the last page. So the locust shop, you look at the last page, it's on the 500,000, on the buildings. There's an estimate. I went through my new county engineer training, and they like to have, roughly 15 to 20% of your, balance be Your total expenditures. So, that $10.2 million that's on the proposed expenditures, we do 15% of that, that'd be roughly 1.5 million. If we don't do, the local shop, we are, really close to the DOT, desired balance.
Can I point this out?
Yeah.
So on this page, summary, it's the third page of the thing. So the second to the last line shows the end of fiscal year, balance.
Which is 900.
940 if you do a county shop.
They like it to be at 15%.
Yeah, 15 to 20 is what I've been told.
We want to be at 1.5 to 2.
Rough numbers.
Yeah.
And they're, you know, they're not holding your feet to the flame if
No.
you're something less, but I think that means we're doing pretty good, is what I'm saying.
And that's why you have the interfund loan to help you with cash flow if you need it. Because if you go into the next fiscal year kind of low and you front load your expenses, then you may need to borrow, but as long as you see a light at the end of the tunnel, it's not so bad.
Exactly right. My concern is, and I talked to staff, and I don't know, the exact years, but basically 2010, 2011, 2012, so 2019 all had a FEMA event. And then my concern is that FEMA event, how that affects the balance.
Spending.
Yeah, so the fee, it will affect spending, but usually you get reimbursables for that. But you don't always have cash in your pocket to make the stuff happen until you get your receipts. That's the concern. And why
So you have the building in for next fiscal year, but would you plan to wait to construct it to like a year from now, so that you'd be doing it in the spring versus in the fall before you know how bad things are?
They are.
I
Yeah.
have, I literally have,
Yeah.
these are all the numbers, and I've
Yeah.
just trying, I don't even know how to go about, I don't know how to go about building that shed in terms of what's the proper, is it a letting procedure? I don't know what that is necessarily.
It would probably be like a bid, but you first need to get together a set of plans of what you want, so that people know what to bid.
I was thinking that I was gonna be trashing that for this fiscal year, but after my work, I'm of a different opinion now.
They bend and advice would be wait till next spring to, get all your plans and everything, what you're doing. Bid it out for next spring, so we know where we're at, so we
You
don't
might
get,
go through.
we don't get hit, you know.
You may go through several iterations of the plan too, what may work or may not.
All right, next year would be the 2024, 2025 year, so that is when it is anticipated, but so.
Be for next spring.
But more likely in the spring.
Spring, but, yeah.
Yeah.
Get through the winter, see what the winter's gonna be and where you're sitting.
And it might take that long just to get your plans ready. And
Yeah, I know that Nick has, that $500,000 for a shop, I think is pretty low, low relative to what we.
Be
spent
on the light side.
But, he has some ideas on how to make a nicer and newer shop that he offered for me to come up to Howard County and inspect that, so. That is still in the works, in terms of, I need to set aside time to do that. But I wanted to mention that because I was nervous that I was gonna have to cut that out, but I'm feeling pretty good about leaving it in at this time.
If you go up there, I wouldn't mind going with you, because that's my old contractor side of 25 years is always interested in what he's thinking about.
Okay, and anybody else could also come if they'd like to as well, so. I guess if you want to talk about the different things, I kind of projected forward, with the claims and the income. I spent a lot of time on that this weekend. Trying to figure out, 5 years down the road, and we have a heavy construction program.
I'm confused, and I'm sorry, I'm backing up, but how come the FM isn't showing, is that because you have it out in the 24?
That's it, and
25.
24, we're exhausting it.
So 24 is where W14 is.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're exhausting it in 24.
yeah, okay, that
The
makes
city
sense.
is built. Oh, okay.
This one would be that in the city of Spillville, no, that's Freeport.
No, the city of Spillville is still, because you haven't changed the letting, it's still on the first one.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah.
And it's not FM because it's STPG.
Correct.
You think you'll order less salt next year because we got a mountain of it left from this year?
Well, we still have to take some from.
75%.
Gotta be. So we're, yeah, that's,
80%.
it's 80%. The contract is 80%. I've not even seen a contract, but that's the number I've heard is 80% on that.
Yeah, we got a bunch.
I know, it's not like 75 range.
So we'll have to figure out what to do with that. There's ideas, but yeah, we'll contract out less salt next year if winter keeps coming this way. Is that right? And I remember skiing in Colorado, and if it was it's getting kind of late now, but February, March, and April were different. On warm Decembers, they were usually pretty good. So let's see what happens. But this first run, I went through using kind of this this kind of construction year, and projected a similar construction year, and then I assumed that we would not get any additional property tax. This is kind of what you had said, the next couple of years were our property tax. It wasn't gonna go up. I averaged about 3 to 3.5% increase in wages. And roughly the same thing with the road use tax fund. And the picture is not good. Again, we have a busy season here in 2024 and 2025. So I used those as projections. And take this as a first run, and it's alarming, but in January of 2029, I'm projecting that we are in the hole roughly $5.5 million for our fund. If you look at the budget, that balance, our balance would be $5.5 million in the hole. And I did this a while back. It was probably 2 weeks ago, maybe. And that's what got me really concerned about the funding for Spillville. And I started looking into these numbers a little more closely. So even though we are fitting well now, we can't have the same construction kind of season as 2024, fiscal year 2024, and push it through the next 5 years. I suggested that we have 1 or 2 more because we're, I guess, a little bit light, but it won't be as full as maybe it's been in the past, because
You're running out of money.
we're running out of money, and the costs are going up and not down. So I kind of worked that into this budget, so if things don't go up as fast as we expect, we'll be fine, we'll be better, but it's not a pretty picture first run. And this is the first run of a first time budget or two, just FYI, so take it for what it's worth. But if you wanna kind of understand how I got to some of the assumptions that I did, I'm happy to take questions right now.
I think if we take a little time and go through it all here, it'll probably explain itself. I mean, it's good reading.
I was just now getting it, so I don't have.
What is CMP?
We'll get a metal pipe. So it's, a lot of people put a split pipe.
Under tool. So
Is that something that you can do?
This is what I need.
Yeah.
This page, these two pages are all I really use. This one.
Franklin will be, concrete pipes, when we put in concrete pipes. Or they don't fail as.
Yeah.
They're just better. They're costly, but they're just
And
better
traditionally,
for where.
when you're doing a hard surface road, you don't want a metal pipe underneath. It's
So
more likely the pipe will fail before the life of the road.
the life expectancy.
2029 there, I mean, we've got nothing going on, but
Yep.
if we got a zero beginning balance and we're got an annual allocation of 2.5 million,
These numbers down there were,
that should be a.
I haven't added up any of those numbers.
Oh, yeah, but this year should be a
I'm
2
trying
point,
to-
that should be a 2.5 as a black, as a red one.
That's me not updating the spreadsheet formulas. I was not sure what I was presenting, so I was not prepared to.
Oh,
I did not prepare the calculations. This is mostly there for when our planned projects are, and that's
Oh,
one reason I kept it. It has the funding sources, it has all of that, but it doesn't have the running balance in there at all.
no.
Honestly, I don't know how,
Oh, that's,
looking at it,
that's ABG, you know.
I just don't know how to do that yet. I have to work on figuring that out. So I just left it.
No,
And
yeah,
I figured we'd have a discussion point on what projects we have going into 2026, 7, and 8.
We got any, I think much of anybody talking about what's coming in for grant opportunities?
The RPA grant,
Any number of, some of the federal stuff, I know you're almost 2 years out and you gotta have it all, but you gotta have it all designed.
and that was the question I was asking you about. You were talking about North Palmer Road, I think you said. And then the option one was the number 2 is what I kind of understood you guys to say. That you're interested in. They were getting 2.8 million and from the RPA in 2028. So that 2.8 million would go to the funding would go to one of those two. One of those 2 projects or it might be mixed use funds kind of a thing. Farm to market might also be added into that as well at that time. But that fund, I'm posing that question to you to see what it is that you're You as.
That's it, Middle Count Road or Ocean Black, one or the other, I don't know which one.
Coin.
Yeah.
That's the oldest.
Well, the one's concrete, one's blacktop, 99 on
This,
blacktop.
this here shows those,
42.
those projects, and if you have 2.8 million and 28, that wouldn't cover the Middle Keller Road, because that's 4 million.
Yeah.
Estimate right here. And that's not even probably considering what kind of the costs are gonna go up between now and then.
Yeah, and then, but we'll have farm to market, yeah, if I remember correctly, the farm to market, should be accruing, by that point, so we'll have, additional funding, but those numbers 5 years out have not been ironed out, but I think knowing which of these projects that you're wanting first will help me set my schedule for 5 years down the road.
So you've got some other farm to market projects in here.
Yeah, I think there's,
In 27, you have basically spend it all back down to
yeah, we get, what's the number, our farm to market in 3 years out.
1.7 million a year, or no, annual allocation is 1.4 million.
Just these numbers, I would not trust those numbers down here because these references were not straightforward for me to figure out. So I just said, let's get the projects discussed rather than having these numbers figured out. But so.
Okay.
Be much in the fund.
$1.5 million a year roughly is what our farm to market accrues at.
Yeah, 1.4, if it's at 1.47, or something like that, yeah, 1.5 million. So you've got basically none at the end of 2024, so you'll get 1.5 million. At 25, you'd have 3, but then you spend 2.2. So then you're down to, so this is about right. Next year, 27, you get 1.5, but you spend 1.7.
Yeah.
So if you're done, so you aren't really accruing any down them until 29. So if you have the 28, you have 2 point.
And those are all put on, those, all of those projects are already included in the, Service Bureau list. So one of the things that we can talk about projects. What are you missing?
27 to 29. 26, 27, 29.
You'll throw 29 in there, you're gonna be at about 700,000.
And just doing,
And it might have been the copy.
If there's no expenditures, there must have been a big expenditure in 28.
yeah, I was mostly came into this meeting thinking about this year and possible project. I apologize.
28 must have a pretty good sized project in there. I don't know. Yeah. We're getting down to 3.9 or 3.9 million.
Well, 28, that is a type of, you say 28.
Oh, that should say 20.
28.
Well, no, it can't because You can't have a beginning balance when the ending balance is 22 million. There's a page missing.
There's a page missing.
Yeah, but your ending balance is 2 million, and then we start out beginning balance.
Somebody have
3.9.
Yeah, the original one.
No, this is right. The previous projects and services.
Yeah, because we're missing,
Those spreadsheet.
there'd be 18 and 9, it's 17, 18, and 19 of the three numbers that you're missing. There must be, there's gotta be a road project in there.
I apologize.
That'd be pretty healthy road project.
Yeah, because that's change it to. My 1
Does anyone have that page? Which would be-
It's true that. 149, and so you got 1 point.
So I guess the bottom line, what I'm seeing, hearing is that he has to work on those out years some to get you a better 5-year plan. So which ones, how would you, if you want him to start roughing these in, how would you, I'm trying to say, prioritize, yes, exactly. Prioritize those 5.
Middle Kelmer and Austin, it'd have to be, I don't know which one. Because this 28, there's probably a $4.5 million project. And there's some place that was. Or not, but let's see, 2.98 first, -6.
I would be real
Come up with
hesitant.
that, come up with an ending balance of 39.
What are the 5 projects, the Middle Palmer Road?
So start probably 32,000.
It's 5, but actually this Ocean Blacktop is divided into 2 pieces.
segments, the south segment is not in near as bad a shape as the north.
It comes out about like the town line in there someplace, ain't it?
What's that?
The Middle Kelmer Road ends kind of around in the, just past the town line a little ways.
Yeah, I think that's.
Where the city line, might be down even toward the Trout Run. Road.
Well, it says here, the 307th Avenue intersection, I don't know what that is. Ocean city limits to the 307th Avenue. So they're talking north and south being from Ocean north and Ocean south.
So vehicles per day, 10,000.
Actually, the Middle Kelmer here, dude, is from the city limits all the way to 52.
So, yeah.
And that's, I think, must be the 2 sections of it. The north section and then the west, and east section. So it looks like based on these, if you're looking at just vehicle counts, Middle Kelmer, but the north part of W42 isn't that much different at 950
W42 is which one?
than the Ocean.
From the airport to Ocean.
So it sounds like the 2 that is this one and Middle Kelmer is
You look
this
at
one.
Middle
Two
Kelmer.
most expensive ones on the list.
Yeah, the 2 that are over 4 million.
You look at Middle Kelmer though, it's like, that's the oldest one.
Yeah, and the Middle Calmer, that I'm hearing that is, the county has been promising it to be paid for the longest time. I don't know about that, but that's.
There's a Band-Aid in the drawer there.
Yeah.
Reminder.
We even got a bigger one last.
Yeah, we got a couple Band-Aids in there.
The last one we got, that's super sized one.
The residents.
The resident comes in and hands out Band-Aids to remind us
Yeah.
that Middle Kelmer Road has been
There was the
Band-Aided.
first one there.
But it's not on the 5-year plan.
Okay, I think it's like, so, no, I mean, that's the one that gets tossed around, I'll say, most often in my office is Middle Calmer Road. I drove some of the 350th, W34, A14, and that's pretty awful itself.
Well, these, I mean, you have in the program already, you have couple of those.
Frankville.
Frankville, which is already in the program, and then the next year you have A18 and A14, no, W20, A14.
Yeah, and I don't, to be honest with you, I just have, these are,
What was on the,
this was on the old one, so for me to know every piece of what, is going on there is, I have not ready to speak to that.
I would say if you could move either the Middle Kelmer or the Ocean Blacktop in some place to get it.
So
One of them in there.
if one of the roads was, with the traffic count dropped dramatically, if one of those, you know,
Yeah.
people going from Decor to Ocean would take one of the two, whichever
yeah.
is better.
I think the government could service more directions.
You know, that kind of goes into play if you're leaving the Ocean area, where you want to end up in Decorah.
Yeah.
If you want to end up by Walmart, you're gonna take
Yeah.
W42. And if you're working at Camcar, you're taking the Middle Calmer Road.
Yeah, I just think
So-
the other one, people are also kind of can go to Belmont and do is alternative route. With me, I would prioritize Middle Calmer probably. Nothing against Ocean, but I mean, it's kind of a compromise of.
Well, in the Ocean would then be setting itself up to be something similar to W14, where you would do both projects.
Washington city limits are, heading south is pretty much all done. That was done on a grant project through the state here a couple of years ago, partially funded.
Oh, in the city
In the
limits,
city
right,
limits.
right, but I'm saying the two, you would let the two hopefully in the same bid to get better pricing.
Better price or B32, you know. That one is not very good either.
And that one comes out of Ocean also, so.
Yeah.
It does.
If there's a grant ferry someplace, it'll help us out.
No, I'm speaking at the friend of my knowledge here, so I
Yeah.
wish I could be a little bit more authoritative on that, but
Our interest drops to 1%. Do a bond deal.
So I think the bottom line is the next year's budget is pretty set. And actually the next 2 years are pretty, because you've got Frankville Road already in the works.
Yeah.
So
That's
for
the-
what I need, we've got that part done. So sometime over the next, his 5-year budget and 5-year plan they didn't change the rules when they changed your budget rules. So you actually have to approve those by April 15th, which is gonna be before you approve your budget. You'll have to have something.
so my intention
worked
then,
out.
I think one thing I will get out of this is my intention is to then show on the 2028 Middle Calmer Road. That's what I'm hearing, as the next piece. And,
Something on there anyway, because there's like 3.2 million already
yeah,
being spent, I don't know, not sure what it is. So.
again, that spreadsheet was, I really focused on just the projects, just trying to get a list of projects, because I don't know the projects, I didn't really worry about the exact number of the funding.
But there is-
Do you want to leave these W20 and A14 projects on here?
I do, as far as I know, unless you tell me otherwise.
I mean, yeah, because that's a big chunk of money, and I don't know that you want to start knocking roads off to be able to add other ones on. You just add these on when you get money available.
I think they're both the ones up by Burr Oak there, ain't they both them projects?
Yeah. Those are,
One's in Borough, one's in Hesper.
Where's our traffic counts?
I don't have the traffic. Well, the traffic doesn't.
230, and it's 230 traffic count with, I think that's the length, 2.6 miles.
Yes, that's the length.
And then A14 is 420 traffic count, 2 miles. And they're the next big hitters after Frankville. They're on right now. And so if you want, just so he has some direction, you leave these on and you put Middle Calm Road as soon as you have enough funds to do it after that. Or do you leave these off so that you make sure in 28, when you get the STBG money, you have enough kind of money to cover the middle Calmer Road?
And so some stuff like this, I don't know if it's my place to tell you what I think's best, or if it's better for you guys to say, this is what the people want, so therefore, can you make this happen? I don't know that relationship very well, so
We've got a lot of middle Kilmer and
so that's where I'm at on these projects. I didn't
I would lean towards middle Calhoun probably.
really.
So I think, so in 28 is when you get the next STBG money, and that was like 2.5 million.
Yeah, it was 2.8.
Or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So if you don't have enough FM money to make up the difference for the $4 million project, and you have to leave one of these two off, I think that's what I'm hearing them say. And then whichever one of these you leave off, you might have to go in 29 or 30 or whatever to get it back on the program.
I think that's great direction. Thanks for summing that up for me, Ben.
And when you start looking at those out years, then you can start seeing which ones, how it's gonna pencil in.
they're all gonna be,
Well,
get worse as time goes.
Middle Town was on the 5-year, the legend has it that Middle Town Road has been on a 5-year plan for 10 years, and now it's off. Now we put it back on finally, it's something silly like that. So.
We're reminded of that.
This is actually a 5-year wish list.
That is exactly what, and that's why I didn't wanna, I wanted to spend my efforts on things that I thought were more tangible over the weekend, trying to prepare for this, was this year.
And
Know what the funding was for, nail that down, try to understand why I was so low when it doesn't seem like we should be, and I found it.
It wouldn't be so bad when they give you your annual allocation, if that would go up 10% a year. Well,
like the cost of doing
construction,
construction.
doing everything else, like that farm to markets, 1.4 million. Well, if it was 150 a year more, I mean, in 5 years, you had 2 million, just help a lot. Yeah,
Just in,
when your hands are tied, we sit here, can't do nothing, Now we're doing one road instead of maybe could have did, or, road and a half.
So you're saving up for 3 years just to get
Yeah.
one road done.
Done.
that's what's going on.
Now we're gonna
Save
save
it up
4 years instead of 3.
Based on the price here, but the cost keeps going 3 years out.
Fillmore County, he's doing 13 projects this year.
Wow.
You got Minnesota money.
Minnesota money, and he's been pushing he'll get them designed, and then he's looking at that federal money that comes up two years out, and if you got it designed, you can grab it.
Yeah.
And so it's,
I gotta learn how to do that.
Yeah, well, that's one thing where we got Austin and the Middle Kelmer, got, have one spare tire in the, with some air in it, in the trunk, in case there is no money out there, we can get.
The last one that we applied for was the last bigger grant we applied for, and I don't know whatever happened with that, maybe it's still.
Between 52 and Spillville.
Yes, between 52 and Spillville, not because it was one of our highest priority roads, but a lot of times the scoring criteria made a difference, and because there was a city at the end of that road, Spillville, it was gonna score higher to qualify for a grant, but that's maybe still in the works, or.
Which one was that?
they got a bunch of safety money up there also.
What is that?
52 to Spillville, what's the?
No, what's the
B16.
funding?
B16.
What was the,
It was a federal grant.
Yeah.
is that federal grant gone now, is what I'm asking.
We don't
We don't know. I think it was an annual grant.
The Ocean Road project, whether it be, E16 or whether it be, no, the 42, we would be terminating in Ocean, and that's all from the market.
So it might be something worth looking into, what those grants. It's, I think if I remember right, when Lee talked to the board about that, it was like
It was gonna
And
widen
you'll-
the safety grant, so it widened the
Oh,
shoulders.
gotcha.
And, you know,
Sure, I'd have to look into that grant, because to me, Austin has 3 projects, and whichever one of those,
Could score the best of the
Yeah.
grant.
right?
Those three that are going into Austin or out of Austin are all done in 1999.
Mhm. So if I can get, I'll send you an email and say what was Lee talking about here?
Yeah.
If you have any of your old emails, you look for me, I may.
Yeah, about what's discussed in here, and I don't know if I remember the details.
I can't remember.
yeah,
Was
back
it?
in March probably, he was talking about, or February. Could look at the minutes or the.
Well, when he was applying for that grant from 52 to Spillville, he also partially chose that because it was a shorter distance than the W42 from the airport to Austin.
Because that's
So he thought,
so
with
much
it
money.
being less of a total dollar package, that it had a better chance of receiving.
Yeah, that's what's kind of sad about a lot of those grants, is that there's so many hoops or strings. It's like, what's gonna make this project, what project's gonna score the best? get the
So we
best
look
pay?
And we would have to come up with what, 1.2 or 5 million? Our share of that, wasn't it? It was a big amount.
Yeah.
For what, there's no way we'd had to cancel out W14.
Yeah,
To do
something
it,
else.
yeah. Which wouldn't work.
And that's not a high priority road by comparison.
No.
I going just doing my work. We kind of just did a growth rates since 2010, since far back as the data's gone, but our property tax that we are growing is at a 4.5% rate. Our road use fund is a 4% rate, growth rate per year, roughly. And, those are the 2 big ones. And then somehow, cause it's time 21. Time 21 grew a lot, but it's basically been flat since 2019. So that was why the total,
Cap.
yeah.
So
we're growing at
our revenues go up at this 4% a year, but the
roughly, yeah.
costs are going up.
And inflation and devaluation of the dollar go up.
So those are just numbers that, I mean, it's not a straight line. It's not, it's not a straight 4% every year, so. But it is seemed,
Well, like this year, your property tax is actually going down.
Down, yeah.
it's not the first time that's happened, so.
Maybe worse, let's see, 25, the recalculate the rural, so that'll probably go with profitability in corn and grain markets will be a lot worse, so that could go down some more.
You're thinking the 2025,
Yeah, they gotta say, what is there, like 6 factors in that go into the big ones, profitability on farm or crops and where your profitability is in farming. And now that's gonna be huge this year if something don't change.
why is farm profitability going down, do you think?
Well, it's
Profitability,
not property, it's
profitability.
property
Why
value
is it
like
going down?
this.
Right, so.
There's a bunch of
costing us-
factors that.
Less corn goes up to 7,000
So-
bushels.
Good luck.
Residential properties are valued based on market value,
Right,
but not farmland is based on crop
Profitability,
profitability.
right.
which right now, this year, your inputs are $1,000 an acre on the average, say. We got $4 corn, 200 bushels, $800, we're getting back, there'll be a loss of $200, just in a rough estimate.
Okay.
Just to put
So
it in
that makes the
perspective.
All the farmland go
Right
down.
now,
and
that's
assessed
pretty
value.
much right what it is.
What it's worth doesn't go down, but
Yeah.
it's taxing.
Right, with the assessed value.
Tax rate goes
Yeah,
down.
the tax rate goes
And
down.
it's similar in commercial and industrial property. set up similarly based on the profitability of
Of the building, yeah.
The profitability this year is gonna, I mean, it's gonna be the next time he rolls it around, it's gonna be lower. I mean,
And is
Now,
that,
the good news is that the values go up and down, but they use rollback, so how much of the assessed value is taxable to try to minimize the impact on the budget.
minus the ups and downs? Smoothing, as they might say.
Yep,
it
exactly.
ain't changed a whole lot in the last, I mean, no.
The best years we have,
It's
the
been
best years we have 4.5% increases, and the worst years are like this where we go down.
Point, yeah, just half.
And my assumptions on the 5 years, like I was trying to project out 5 years.
Was to keep it flat,
Flat.
which is probably a pretty good assumption.
Yeah,
And it's just weird, it's a little, we, like I said, there's a lot of projects on, it was a big project year that I assumed, and it was a flat increase in that property tax.
if it went off the price of land,
Yeah.
we'd have all new roads.
Which is, that's actually my question. It's like,
No, we wouldn't, because we can only put so much into the road fund.
Yeah,
That's true. Well,
Now, yeah.
and maybe the
But-
fund's gonna go somewhere else, but I was really,
The problem is that the amount you can transfer to the road fund is directly tied to the value in the rural area, because it's so many dollars per thousand. So if the,
So it
so it would happen, if the value goes up, then you can transfer more to the rural fund or the road fund.
Yeah, it's based on a percentage.
Yeah, but they gotta up that percentage.
so I was talking to the railroad guy.
Bureau's gonna make that happen.
Western Iowa is expanding huge operations for, I guess it's ethanol production.
Oh, yeah.
That would raise the price of corn, right?
Yeah, but we,
I mean,
America,
I've asked,
our corn market here, don't really, it's Brazil and Argentina are the big players.
okay,
And Brazil is a good crop. We ain't gonna matter pretty soon.
okay.
They got so much land, they just develop it, it's 10 feet of black soil, and they just, once they get their infrastructure in Brazil, or down there, and so right now, their infrastructure, they can't get it out.
Okay, they don't have the farm to market.
They can't get it out. Once they can get it out, they say yeah, and it's getting that way.
Weather pattern changes too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just whatever the Brazil and Argentina, that's what everybody watches, the weather there. It ain't really matter a whole lot here. Unless we get a severe drought this year, then it's really gonna impact.
54 is not real.
No, not last year. I mean, yeah, you were saying $1,100 for input. An acre, that's what it cost you. Now you got 450 corn.
Would that be for soy also? Soy?
Yeah, they go off profitability of soybeans too.
So Brazil?
Oh, yeah, no, it's huge.
They're bigger than.
All the commodity prices are come into play in that.
Yeah, it's Brazil and Argentina, that's whose weather they watch. You know, that dictates what happens here.
Or if they can't get it through the Panama Canal.
Yeah.
I would think. Got it all wrapped up, guys?
I have nothing further. Again, this is my first time, and I was really focused on this year and the next year, so that's why the 5-year program was.
Oh, thanks. Good job.
I would motion to adjourn.
Second?
A motion and a second for adjournment. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, boy. Mark and Dan, you staying behind?
Yeah.
Hearing?
You can't hear you.
That's not good enough. Perfectly well, you said.
Like, the 5-year program, that's something that needs one for years.
Mark.
Not to do by budget, but it has to be adopted by April 15th.
Yeah, I get that. I wanted it to be done now. So.
This could be, the beginning of next year is pretty much ironed out, is what I need to know.
Yeah, and I'm good with that. I was worried about the cash flow and the projects. And I'd asked if the 250, whatever it was.
Yeah.
First guess for how the cash flow is gonna put a budget. And that's what I was concerned about.
Well, and I think that we'll talk later this week, but getting a little extra money.
On the back of
road
the-
area. I think I called it to make it, not the ditch fund, I think,
Yeah,
starting
figure it out.
July 1st, I'm gonna call it something like the roadside management or something.
Yeah,
It's a